Hello, and welcome to the Being Human podcast, where we explore what it means to be human, physically, mentally, and spiritually. Whether you're new here, or especially if you're returning and you have not yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button. You do not want to miss any of these episodes. On this episode of the podcast, I sat down with Alex Snell. Alex coaches men to help them achieve top 1% health and physiques. He's also a former professional footballer, a model, and all-round great guy. This conversation was all about health, fitness, Alex's journey through health, fitness, and life in general. We touched on everything that we like to here at Being Human, everything from nutrition to meditation, God, life after death, everything from the shallows to the depths and all of it in between. This was a really fun conversation. We sat outside in the sunshine in Alex's garden in Devon and soaked it up whilst we exchanged ideas. I hope you enjoy it. If you do, give this video a thumbs up, drop a comment below, share it around on social media, and hit that subscribe button too. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure to hit that follow button and rate the show 5 stars. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and thank you for supporting Being Human. The Being Human podcast is brought to you by Ra Optics. These are the best blue blocker glasses on the market. I use these daylight lenses when I'm doing my work throughout the day to keep me energized, to eliminate eye strain, headaches, and mood imbalances. And then I use these sunset lenses in the evening to really help me block out that blue light, wind down, and get a good night's rest. Ra Optics are effective and stylish. I wear these to work, I wear these out to dinner. They really are fantastic. There's a whole range of different styles for you to shop to find something that suits you. All you need to do to pick up a set of these is to head to raroptics.com and use the code WAGLELE to get 10% off your order. That's raroptics, ARoptics.com, and use the code WAGLELE, WAGLELE, all caps, to get 10% off your order. The Being Human podcast is brought to you by Mr. Bassett's Grappler's Coffee and Mr. Bassett's Grappler Soap. Mr. Bassett brings you quality, natural goods that are going to nourish you, not harm you. Grappler Soap is the soap to use if you're a combat sports athlete to fight off those skin infections, keep them at bay, and stay smelling fresh for your training partners. And Grappler's Coffee is the coffee to get you caffeinated so you can continue to wrist lock, punch choke, and oil check your training partners into oblivion. All you need to do to pick up these goods is to head to mrbassets.com and use the code WAG10 to get 10% off your order. That's mrbassets.com, WAG, all caps, 10 to get 10% off your order. And now presenting Being Human with Alex Snell. I think the best place to start would be to ask you, what was like your first experience when it came to health and fitness? Like, when did you first start thinking about it consciously and start taking care of your health and fitness, whatever that looked like for you originally?
Yeah, that's a really great first question. I would say it kind of started off through early childhood, really. My dad was very much into sport, played high-level cricket, was a swimmer as well, was into running. So I get a lot of the inspiration and ideas from quite a very fortunate childhood, because a lot of people don't get that right. So I think from an early age, I could definitely see the potential and the ideas behind exercise, even albeit you don't see it so much as a young kid.
Yeah.
Kind of started from there, really. So there was a lot of involvement in sport throughout my early teens, playing a lot of sport at school. Football was the sport.
These are all classic English. British
Everyone
sports,
goes through
cricket,
this.
football. When we say
I don't
football,
know
we mean soccer.
These viewers, whoever we're speaking or going to see this, are even going to know what cricket is. We'll have to break that down later on.
It's a posh version of baseball. That's the best way to put it, isn't it?
Yeah, I would say that's a pretty good way to describe it. It's not really my sport, but we'll go on a tangent with that one there. But we'll leave that one for in a bit. But anyway, it all started off at a young age, but football was my sport. In fact, I played quite a high-level sport. I played semi-professional. That was kind of like my thing, and that's where I wanted to go. I ended up playing professional football in Cyprus, a Division 1 team. So it was a very good standard. I always grew up here and I played semi-pro, but I needed to leave, and I was 18 years old at the time. So that's when it kind of, that kicked off the sort of fitness and health, because with a high-level club, you've then got access to good gym facilities, and you take it a bit more seriously, right, compared to the Sunday league football. So
have a pint before the game, have a pint after.
So that wasn't really my style, and I noticed a lot of whatever I do, it's kind of like all or nothing. I want to make sure I'm the best of the best at whatever I do. So anyway, I went to Cyprus, played out there for a season, and then this is where I had access to an amazing gym facility. And this was very much different from what I was used to here in the UK. I've gone from playing like semi-pro to now like a really high-level sport. So anyway, I saw the gym environment there, and as I was clueless at the time. I didn't really understand, anatomy, any hypertrophy strength. These were foreign words to me back then. So anyway, I kind of got into the gym there, and what I found was that I enjoyed everything outside of the football way more than I did actually playing.
Okay, so
that
you
was
quickly
kind of
fell in love with it.
That was kind of like the spark plug almost, right? That kind of gave me that kickstart, because that for me, lifting weights and going in there and doing the strength training was completely new to me. But the return from doing that, even just in the course of a couple of weeks, was the minor confidence boost. Having that strength and knowing that I've been putting in the reps outside of the football then translated onto the pitch. So like from there, I think in answer to your question, when I go back to this era, this is kind of what kick-started the whole strength training, gym life. This was a very early stages for me.
You came into it from an athlete's perspective, from an athlete's path. Whereas that's not necessarily the case for everybody. And I think you highlighted a good point at the start there that your dad played a big role in you being involved in these things. And I think as a kid, for most kids, a large part of what you end up doing as a kid is very much dictated by your dad when it comes to sports. So if your dad's not going to push you into stuff, you're not going to do much.
Yeah.
And if your dad does push you into something, that's what you're going to end up doing.
Absolutely.
Versus something else.
And it's the same if you flip that round as well with negative traits, right? If you've got an absent father, or there's stuff that's been going on in an early childhood, it's easy for the kid to then replicate that, unless you do the inner work and you're aware of these kind of things, of course. But yeah, I'm very lucky in that sense that physical activity was valued from a young age, because that then gave me that, spark plug to then look into that into more detail. And if it wasn't for that, maybe, I would have been interested in other things. And I think any kid or anyone that gets into, physical exercise isn't just about doing the sport. There's so much more to it, as you know already. Discipline,
camaraderie,
brotherhood, exactly. So that the list goes on. It's not just about you going out for a run. It's all these endeavors, all these like things that you try then lead on to other things as well, right? So it's played a huge part of my life. And I kind of miss team sports a little bit though.
I hear a lot of people that where like their sport, their main endeavor is bodybuilding or powerlifting, something that's gym based, that's like inherently a solo sport. I hear a lot of people say they miss like the social element, because you don't always get that in a gym. And even with like my sport is a solo sport in the sense that I compete for myself. It's only me stepping out onto the mat. When I go compete, it's not team versus team. But I train with a team. It's a sport, you can't grapple by yourself. You have to train with a team. So you still get that, even though it's a solo sport. Where did you go then from playing professional football in Cyprus, starting to fall in love with health and fitness in general?
Yeah, well, I mean, I could sit here and give you the classic, my hamstring went and I had the injury. That's what the majority of people seem to say, it right? Oh, the hammy went.
If my knee didn't go.
Yeah. However, far from the case. I actually went back. I returned after Cyprus to actually go and study at university. I needed to go and, I didn't need to. I wanted to go and get a qualification.
What sparked that? Well, what was the spark then between deciding to go from
I kind of fell out of love with football.
Okay.
The strength training really got me. This was way more interesting than it was the football, because I had a lot of pressure on weekends. I played football for quite a long time, and I always felt like I wanted more. That it wasn't quite ticking the box anymore. So sort of came back, and that was then when I was like, okay, now I need to kind of try and figure something else out. Where could I go with this? I'm already interested in the strength training aspect. I love exercise. I love physical. I love discipline. I like pushing myself. And there was always much that, at school, that Alex was the sporty guy, maybe in hindsight, putting a lot of emphasis on the sport and less academics. I heard a lot of the time, he's not really an academic. And obviously at that age, it's probably not the best thing to hear when you're in school and you've been told you're not an academic.
You're giving
because then you're like, well, actually, I'm not going to listen at all then,
Yeah.
which is what I did, basically.
Yeah. I was thinking more existential. Yeah, we're given definitions and we're not ready to be defined. But yeah, on a basic level, if you tell a kid at school, you're not very academic, well, God, like the guy who is academic is probably having a hard time concentrating.
Yeah, man.
Tell him he's not academic and then it's all to the wayside.
Yeah, that's it. So I think that's actually a lesson in itself. It's super important.
Definitely.
So anyway, I was trying to seek something else and thought, well, I wasn't entirely sure what to do when I got back, but I knew that sport and I wanted to do something around exercise or study
it was
something.
a genuine pivot in curiosity.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that's very, like, how old were you at this age?
20.
That's a very mature perspective, because like having your identity tied into being an athlete it gets its hooks in very strongly. A lot of people struggle to pull away from their identity as an athlete, struggle to pull themselves away from playing a sport, especially if they're playing it at a high level. And for you, like you said, it wasn't because you couldn't play anymore. It wasn't because of an injury. You just
similar to what you were telling me earlier on when we're out for a walk
with corporate law.
Very similar with your story with the law, and that, like you said, for me it was kind of very similar to what you said. It was an easy decision for me, really.
It was just a change
when it
in
doesn't
passion.
feel right inside. That's a very strong indicator, right, that something isn't working. And I think the reason we have a few problems is that people ignore these signs and maybe aren't in tune so much and decide to do this because society says, or because they've got expectations from other people.
Because they can. Because they can.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Because I can, I should.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was the end of that. And going to university was actually, there were two reasons, but one of the main reasons was I went to Bournemouth. They had a football club called Poole Town. So I was already playing semi-pro. And I thought that if I go to uni and play for Poole Town, I've got a plan A and a plan B, because I'm going to go there, play football. I could maybe break into pro, maybe. And then went to uni, and in the quickest answer is that I got into socialising, and kind of that it just...
Into uni life.
And got into uni life, and that it just totally fizzled out from then. And that was the end, basically. And I've never played since.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. What was your study? So football, that dissipated, that fell away when you went to uni. What about what you were there to study? Like, how did your study go?
Yeah, sports psychology. I mean, it was very heavy on the psychology. Like, I already could tell straight away. Like, my intentions were, I'm going to go to university. I'm going to be quite, it's going to be a lot of practicality. I'm going to be out, understanding a little bit more specific in the anatomy, a bit more sport-based, and it was far from it. It may as well have just been a psychology degree.
Really? Yeah.
And of course, I still find this quite interesting now, the psychology, human brain, everything is very interconnected. But the depth of the psychology was way beyond like where I was at that time in my life.
And it's not what you were looking for.
Not at all. Yeah. Not at all. And couple that with living with other people, DJs in Bournemouth, and like being in the kind of wrong environment, it felt like a bit of a recipe for disaster. Although I don't regret it, because I had an amazing time. I learned how to like be around people and meet new people, broaden my perspectives, and live on my own, live with new people. It was an amazing experience, but there's that whole debate, right? Do we really need to be going to university? Because it was kind of like a off the whim, kind of like, I don't really know what else to do. I'm just going to follow and do what everyone else is doing because that's what society tell you to do. And
okay. So 4 years at uni? 3 years?
3 years.
Yeah. What happened after that?
What happened after that? I went and got a personal training qualification. again, you see this theme here where it's just like carried on.
Yeah. So the curiosity still remains. Like your degree maybe wasn't what you expected it to be or wanted it to be.
No.
But your curiosity remained strong.
Yeah. And just to get this straight, I didn't finish uni.
Okay.
No, I dropped out.
All right. Okay.
So,
how far in?
Just over 2 years.
Yeah. So even over the halfway point.
Yeah. So it was the case of I actually put in quite a bit of work. Surprisingly, in my second year, kind of felt like I really need to pull my finger out, and I spent a lot of time trying to understand these theories. I spent hours and hours, and actually tried this time. And what I mean by that is, in previous years, the first year of university was one big party. So like this year, I was like, okay, if I want to do this, I need to actually at least give myself a shot and see what I can do if I actually put my mind to it. Because otherwise, it would be rubbish if I was to just repeat what I did the first year. And I really tried anyway. Got into the first exam and put my name on the paper. And at the very beginning, they were like, if you feel like you want to leave within X amount of time, I think it was like half an hour, you can leave within half an hour and put your hand up. I was like, okay, well, that shouldn't be me this time because I've actually got my head switched on. And I spent all this effort and I could not seem to be able to put the theory onto a piece of paper. And there was this huge missing link here. And I was like, at the time I struggled with and know how to understand this ADHD brain that I feel like I have. But like back then I didn't understand it and I wasn't taking the right measures. Anyway, I couldn't answer any of the questions. I was just looking at this piece of paper thinking, look, if I can't do this now, what am I going to do in 4 years? And I didn't want to ask for help either. And I put my hand up. I left the hall and I phoned my dad because like the first thing I'm thinking is, oh man, he's going to be, he's going to be so disappointed or whatever, And I just said, look, I can't do this right now and I'm going to drop out and I'm going to figure it out. And that is a long story, but anyway, that's when I looked into the personal training qualification.
Yeah. What did your dad say, out of curiosity?
To be honest, handled it really well. It was super, it's one of those things where you'd rather be honest than try and do this degree and not being able to do it. Like maybe, yes, I could have done it if I really applied and asked for help but wrong course, wrong living environment with the wrong people, too much socializing. As simple as that, really. So there was a bit of a cocktail there, which I think led me to dropping out. But it was the best decision because I'm, again, like you said earlier, I don't really have any regrets. These are all massive learning curves at the end of the day. So.
Yeah, that's it. There's no, an experience is only wasted if you don't take away anything from it, if you don't learn from it. Yeah. And sometimes we've got to learn the same mistake over and over again. I think, I find myself sometimes, I think some things in life I'm going to have to relearn on a recurring basis every 5 years. But that's just something you got to do. Yeah. Sometimes you got to go out and have a drink every 6 months to remind yourself, oh, actually, I don't feel great the next day. And that's what it takes sometimes.
That's it.
No experience is wasted.
Being a human, right?
Yeah, man.
Literally.
That's it. Yeah. If it, with the good experiences, that's brilliant because you don't need to necessarily learn something from it. You had a great time, you enjoyed life, everything's happy, the sun's shining, the birds are tweeting. But when things didn't pan out how we wanted them to, and maybe things aren't so great, you got to look for the lessons, haven't you?
Yeah,
and take them forward. Yeah. So personal training.
Yeah. So that was on to the personal training. Now I think this is quite a common thing with a lot of guys as well, especially like in the UK. It's like, well, I'm in good shape. I was still at uni. My training wasn't optimal by all means because of the partying and everything else that came with it. But I was still holding a pretty good frame because I was still disciplined and still training. It wasn't far from optimized, but the thought was there, and like I was still ticking some of the boxes. Yeah. I was still aware.
Still getting to the gym.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So. And going back to what I was saying, a lot of people do this. It's like, well, if I'm good at this, then why don't I try and do something within this field? It was a no-brainer to me to go and do a personal training qualification because this is what I was good at and this is what I love doing. So I might as well try and make a living out of personal training. I love people. I love talking about my interests, as we all do. And it was one of those things that just kind of came naturally to me. So kind of back to the drawing board, I guess you can say. So back to Devon, where I am now, and went and did the qualification in like 3 weeks. It was like a fast track.
Okay.
Get it done super quick.
That's good. Because these PT courses, man, this is, sorry to interrupt.
No, you crack on, man.
These PT courses, they're so drawn out. I think they're really overpriced for what they are. Especially in this day and age, there's nothing you can't learn off of YouTube in 3 weeks, as you've just said. So yeah, that's a bit of an aside. It's good to hear that you did a fast track rather than planning it out for another 3 years.
You've absolutely hit the nail on the head with that in itself, because in hindsight, I'm glad you mentioned it as well, because like when I look back at that and I look at the course, the information that is very, layman's terms, very basic. And of course, we need to, we all need to understand the basics, right, before we get into the technicalities. But looking back at it, for the amount of money that costs, I think it's $3,000, something around that, to do it quickly. Yeah. That's still a lot of money to some people.
$3,000 for 3 weeks.
Yeah. So I did that, and it was good to get it done quickly. But you're thinking, and I look back at it now, I'm like, man, you 100% could have learnt that online or with books or whatever.
And there's a lot of misconceptions in there as well,
and
especially on the nutrition side, but even on the training side. Don't put your knees over your toes when you squat. Things that, thankfully now with the access to information we have, these have been debunked, but they're still featured in these courses. If you went to uni and you do a sports science degree, there'll even be lots in there in those courses, like at the highest level, that
of course
have been proven wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was a really good move, and it kind of like set me up, and at least then I've got something to, I've got this qualification now. I can kind of go and do something with it, because you have to have a qualification to go and work in a gym. It's just by law. That's just the way they operate, which is fair enough to an extent. So I was already in quite good shape, and then that's where the whole, that's what I thought was going to be my career now. I'm like, I'm going to be this personal trainer. But at this time, whilst all this is going on, I was kind of still, so I didn't actually mention this, and whether it's that relevant to like the general gist of what we're going to be speaking about today, but I was part-time. I was signed to a model agency, and this was going on whilst I was at university. So I was kind of like dabbling. I'd already done some work. Like when I got back from playing football, I was already like working with some brands and doing all this kind of stuff. So earning some pretty good money, but like the jobs would only come about here and there. But when they came in, they were awesome. So I was also kind of not led astray, but I had this stuff going on as well outside of football. And at uni, even like I said, I had castings that would be in London, where I'd have to like go to London, and then I wouldn't show up at my lectures because I'm getting like pulled in by the agency, but then I'm also like my degree, like, where are you? Like, what's going on? Like, so there were lots of like different things going on top of like relationships, personal life, and all the other things going on. I had a girlfriend in Norway. Like there's a long distance relationship. Like there's so many things, and like, it's all a matter of priorities and what you value at the time. But in essence, what I'm trying to get at is there's been all these like temptations and things pulling me in from different angles, and I think that modeling world, when the money's good, especially like as a late teen or like early 20s, that's always kind of like been there in the background, because I hadn't figured out the online space back then. I didn't have online business. Like this was still kind of like out of my reach back then. I didn't even know if this was going to be possible.
Yeah.
So
with the modeling, obviously, like that's a job that, to a large extent, God decides whether you're going to do it or not.
Yeah.
Like some people are born to be a model, and some people, they could, do all the protocols in the world.
Yeah.
They're just
genetic lottery.
Yeah, right. But it's also a skill. Would you say? Like, talk to me about that. When it came to the modeling,
absolutely.
Like, how much of it did you have to learn, and how much of it was just instinct?
There's definitely a skill aspect.
There is.
In terms of, and what I mean by skill is, I actually did a tweet on this recently about having the skill of charisma.
Yeah.
And a bit of an unshakable presence. Like you and I here, we're having a great conversation, and they all flow so well when you have that degree of presence and you're here in the now. And I noticed this on one of the best recent ones that I did. And I say recent, this was 3 years ago now, but it was a really good one. It was for Royal Enfield. It was a motorbike brand, and it was a really good pay. These ones don't come about so much, but this was awesome. Like, we had like a fighter jet on set, we had bikes, and I was in the Top Gun character. And when you're on set and bearing in mind they've spent thousands on this set, like it's in a hangar of this airspace, and you have to adapt, you have to really feel the ideas and what the sort of director has got in mind. So there is a skill aspect in the sense that you need to be able to become that person. You need to you read the room, feel the energy.
You can't fake it, can you?
No.
You got to really be present in the moment, and be confident.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the environment you're in, and
definitely.
And you got to know who you are in that moment, who they want you to be, and you've got to feel that, haven't you? I'm speaking. I haven't like modeled like the way you have, just some stuff through social media, and a bit of acting.
But that's still,
kid,
but you're still the model when you break that down, rather than just seeing. And I think a lot of agencies are starting to see this now as well, rather than the sort of just as I see you now as a physical, just on a surface level. When you go into a casting, I've been there before, where I've walked in and I'm like, I could, like, back in the day, I'd be like, oh, I'm going to get this. Like, back in the day, my mum would be proud, because it's like modelling. When you're a younger lad, I'm going to get this one. And generally, when you can feel it, you usually get it. And in the casting, if you just go in there and you're just like, you look incredible on paper, like you might have this perfect, whatever. And by the way, I don't mean perfect, that doesn't exist, but you know what I mean. You can look incredible.
Oh, good symmetry.
But if you don't have, like, if the casting director doesn't feel anything and it suits their brand, because brands are looking for something way more than just this physical surface level figure. They want you to encapsulate their brand. They want you to, like, really, Royal Enfield, for example, that felt like a really good fit for me. It felt very much aligned, and I think it's way beyond that for branding. Branding online as well.
Yeah.
You're modeling constantly, like what you put out on social media to an extent.
Yeah, and you're constantly marketing yourself.
Absolutely.
When it comes to social media as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, models and actors, like I said, like just drawing from the experience I have, not at a high level at all, but like acting, like doing some theatre when I was a kid, and stuff. Yeah, it's you've got to. It's not. You can say the words, you can look good, but what you're actually there for, the purpose of you, is to connect with the audience.
Absolutely.
And like, if you're an actor on stage, that's maybe easier to do in the sense that the audience is right in front of you.
Yeah.
But as a model, I'm
it's
very
skill.
intrigued.
You definitely hit the nail on the head there, because if you think about, like, skill, repetition, intertwined, right? And that's the same with you with grappling, with doing this combat sport. That is over and over and over and over again. And some of these things are, like, kind of tricky to explain to someone that may have not done that, right? Repetition. Same with anything, whether you're trying to build a business, whether you're trying to get in shape, whether you're trying to, all these things are skills, and it's just practice.
Yeah.
So that sounded like an obvious thing to say, but like, no. It's cliche, but so true.
No, it's true, and that's, I mean, it applies to all things. Like any skill you do, for the most mundane things, like you wash up every day, you're going to become more efficient at it if you've switched on. I was
like, Leah's not here now, so she'd be like, wash it up. She'd be like, yeah, right.
Leave you to the modelling. Leave you to lift weights and model.
Yeah, that's funny.
But okay, so yes, you had the modelling going on in the background.
So
but also going into personal training as well. What was that like when you first got on the ground?
To be honest with you, I mean, it's difficult. Like, there was a lot of things going on with this modelling. I was also doing hosting at events in London. So I was living in London at the time when I started this whole personal training journey as well. So I had the personal training going on, event hosting, so model hosting. So it was really good money alongside modelling, because when you're starting off as a model, it's not like you just book and you can make it a full-time job. Like, maybe some people would, but I didn't.
Yeah.
And so you had to do other things on the side. So this model hosting, I would go to, like, these huge parties, sometimes in the countryside outside of London. Some of them were in London, and I could see and got a taste for what I guess it could be. I was surrounded by very wealthy people. Sometimes I would get amazing tips and things like that. So like I was balancing these three things. So I'm like, agencies are giving me sort of building me up, saying, oh, I'm going to get these jobs and they've got these grand plans and that they're going to put me forward for this. And it was very slow, but then I'd get a good one and that would slow off. So I could never rely on it, right? So that's why I had to do these events on the side. But it worked well because a lot of these events casting directors would go to. It was a little toxic at times. There was lots of like drinking involved at these events. A lot of the lads would drink in and out of the shifts. Like it was a bit of a strange environment, but it never really felt like work either, because you'd go to these parties, you have quite good fun, go home, and then you just do a similar thing all week. So it'd only start from like Wednesdays to Sundays, and if I wanted to, I could work from then. But of course, I'm getting pulled by this industry, but then I'm also like, I want to build a bit more of a solid career, because modeling is so uncertain. And of course, there's beauty in uncertainty as well, right? When you look at it like that. But when you're building a relationship, you're with a girlfriend, and they're thinking about a long-term future. If you say, oh, yeah, I might be this model in a couple of times, I'll do Versace in a couple, like, it's not great. So I wanted a quote unquote proper career.
You wanted to provide some stability.
Yeah, no, exactly. And then of course personal training, that was my thing, and that was what I felt more comfortable with. Being on the camera I got used to, but like this was my, I wanted to help people. I love feeling good, I like being healthy, and that's why I worked in, well, arguably one of the best gyms in London. However, there was some grey area and I don't want to call them out, but yeah, there was a lot of, there's a lot of like things going on. So there was a few pulls from different directions, but ended up doing the PT thing at various studios because I didn't want to go into full time, because I had the modeling and the event work, and that was really good money.
Yeah.
And it just was no need for me to go and be a full-time PT. I had a nice balance of all of those things. And then actually in the relationship that I was with at the time, she wasn't so happy about me doing these various things. It was a bit of a toxic relationship towards the end. I actually dropped a lot of the stuff I didn't like doing, which again, that's a massive learning curve, right? Going back to that conversation, and ended up doing full-time personal training. I got a job with a salary, and very little gyms will give you a salary. It's a very rare thing. So a salary as a PT in London, a very good salary. And it was like, same as a lot of incentives, right? Year 2, year 3, you'll make year 5. And already, I mean, I was doing 50 hours a week at one point. As I said to you earlier on, when we were out, up super early, stressing in the nighttime, getting back late, not sleeping very well. And as both you and I know, the sleep, right, how important that is for absolutely every metric of your health. And when I look back at it, 5-6 hours of sleep a night, night sweats because of stress for booking in club. And
the London life.
The London welcome,
life.
Yeah, that's a great way to kind of like sell it, isn't it?
Yeah. No, but
because I know you had a very, very similar experience in the sense of like, running yourself to the ground and living that whole London life, and again, like, we were doing something similar, because that was from a societal like norm, like going in, getting a salary paid job, good money. I'm chasing that stability,
good status. Tell someone you work in London, like,
that's it.
Wow. Doing something good, something important.
Yeah, exactly.
The mistake I made, actually, it'd be interesting to hear what drew you to London, why you chose London, because for me, the glitz and the glamour drew me in. And looking back, it's easily summarised as this: I'm as stuck being in London for a day for what it would be like to live there. Visiting London, I thought, wow, like, this is amazing. And naturally, I didn't have the perspective to see and know, but visiting for a day isn't going to be like living there, Aaron. And you know what I mean? Like, it's the difference between a holiday and going somewhere on a holiday and living there. And I didn't have the foresight to see that. And I think that's the easiest way I can describe it. Look, I'm at the point now where I can go back to London and really enjoy being there for a day or two. But I know
rather
I don't want to live
that
there.
way round than actually trying to escape somewhere you live.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like to me. Like most weekends, it was like, how can I get out of here to recalibrate, rather than the other way
wait
around.
to get out every weekend.
Yeah. And of course, like London, major cities, Barcelona, Madrid, there's some incredible European cities and time and place, and they have.
But European cities, from my perspective, in my experience, are different than London. Would you say
Oh,
that?
yeah.
Like,
I mean,
I don't think it's just the sunshine either.
Of course it is.
I think it's the way
they're and Eastern Europe, for example. Beautiful. Yeah.
And as well, like the way they're constructed, they have squares. There's not many squares in London. You know, social places where you can just sit outside, have a coffee. People, you know, someone comes and sits down next to you that you haven't never spoke to before. You end up having a 30-minute conversation with them. Like I said, maybe it's just the sunshine and the dopamine, but you don't get that in London. But it is still a beautiful city. I can go back there now and enjoy visiting.
It's an incredible city for sure.
Yeah. What drew you to it?
I mean, I get, like, that's my perspective, and I understand why people might want to go and live in London, depending on what they're doing, and
some people love it.
Of course, what they value, and like, you know, you can go there, have amazing restaurants, have access to all these things, and there's clubs, there's distractions. But for me, that's not what I'm about right now. Maybe in my early 20s, that's kind of like I wanted to work there, but also like be in London because it's cool and like there's loads of stuff to do. I might meet some more interesting people. Like coming from a small hometown in Devon, like I wanted to do something different. I wanted to get out there, get amongst the world, and maybe that's why I travelled to Cyprus initially. I needed to see more, to feel more, to do more, because I always felt and it had gone on a tangent, but like this small town mentality in these small places, it's always felt a little off to me. And I always felt like there was more out there. And every time I've travelled, I've met some incredible people. I've got one of my best mates is just outside of Malibu now. And, you know, if it wasn't for this deeper, like, feeling that there's more out there, I wouldn't have even met these people that have broadened my perspectives, like even just networking with you online as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot to say for that. And I think all these things are going back, again, I keep reiterating, but like lessons, right? All these things are happening for the bigger picture. So although it didn't work out for you or it didn't work out for me, these things are constantly adapting. Like all these situations in life, you're constantly going through this flux of like change and what you value more and does this align with your goals, and we're always constantly changing. I think it's just adapt, isn't it? And
we're constantly gathering data, and something I've begun to realize recently is that now at this point in my life that I've done lots of things which I thought, this is for life, this is what I'm meant to do, and I'm someone that tends to stay on the same track. I'm not somebody that, you know, tries lots of different things, but inevitably I've picked things up that have fallen to the wayside that I don't do anymore, because they just weren't right for me, or even if they were right at the time, it's not something I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And being, you know, an ambitious guy, you've got this idea when you fall in love with something, or when you've got an idea about something, like this is it, and this is something I'm going to be pursuing for 10, 20, 30 years. And as I've gone through my 20s, I've realised that's not the case with maybe anything. Maybe like 1% or like, you know, 0.5% of things. But most of the time we're just throwing ourselves into things wholeheartedly, which is great. And then we'll drop them at some point.
Yeah,
and
but that's beautiful.
Okay. Yeah, that's okay. And what we're doing is we're gathering data, and as cliche as it is, we're finding ourselves. Like there's this an important part of a process of being a young man. Like you've got to try different things, and like you'll have many different things that you think are quote unquote the answer, and maybe they are the answer for 6 months, for a year,
amount of time.
Exactly. But we got this idea that everything has to be forever or it doesn't matter. Whereas
that's a really great point.
that
you've made. And isn't it liberating to think that when you flip it like that, you can just literally go and do things. You can go and do what you want. You can, if you've had enough of this, you can then pick something. You can try a new hobby. You can try, everything is at our disposal. We can get exactly what we want out of life. And it sounds easy, but like the way we retrain our subconscious thought patterns and the way we try these new things can then lead to other opportunities. Just a change of environment can literally change your entire life. Meeting new people, new habits, new perspective. Like a lot of the time, I think a lot of people get stuck, quote unquote stuck, is because of their environment. And as soon as you make that change, that can then have that knock-on effect to everything else.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you change your clothes, you can feel like a new person.
Yeah.
Change your environment,
Yeah.
the world's just opened up.
Yep, absolutely.
And yeah, we live in the age of opportunity.
Yeah.
Today, like, you know,
it's an amazing time, like especially with the online
if you're healthy
space.
And you've got a phone,
like you've messaged me, like when you actually break it down with technology compared to this, right? Going back in time, you've messaged me, sent a message through social media.
Yeah.
Hey mate, like we connected for a little while, had various conversations, and we'll agree on a lot of stuff, maybe disagree on some stuff, but we're on the same page, the same mission. We've got a lot of similar ideas, and that's just come from you sending a message. Right, now we're here today, you're at the house, and we're having this conversation, and we're now not only having this conversation together, but we're also putting this out there for other people that hopefully might resonate with it.
Or somebody drops a comment.
It's actually like incredible. I think sometimes we can take these things for granted, but it's an incredible time. And especially going back to the online space, like you can literally find a way. If you know, of course, these things take trial and error, and I'm not exactly where I want to be yet, but I'm in a position where I can, like, you know, location freedom, time freedom, and it's awesome. Like I love it. It's so good.
Yeah, there's endless opportunities today, and that's both a blessing and a curse, because really, it's, you know, it's a dichotomy or a spectrum. You know, the more opportunity, the more distraction. And the only difference between an opportunity and a distraction is whether it's benefiting you or, you know, or whether it's acting to your detriment. So it's important to be judicial with your choices. But
that's a really good point.
By and large, it's a benefit.
I think it's a good point that you've raised there, because you also need to look at, there are caveats with absolutely everything. And I think with this information digital age, and you know, you go on Instagram, for example, you know, everyone's trying to sell you a course, everyone's trying to sell something, and there's this easy comparison feeling, right, that we can do, whether it's be subconscious or not. And it's very easy to look at someone and think, oh well, they're in Bali at the moment. Bali seems cool because it's got this and that, and I've been there and I love the place. I'm not digging Bali, but I'm just saying, because there's such a ton of information, like we were speaking earlier with X as well, it's not a natural process for your brain to take that amount of information in. And there's just so many options. Like if you're trying to get into the online space, dropshipping, e-commerce, coaching, the locations you can choose from, it's just like it's mad.
No, it really is. So yeah, you're going full-time into personal training.
So I mean, that didn't, if I'm totally honest, that didn't last a great deal of time. And I'm, again, like what we talked about, I'm very much like, if in here I don't really feel it, I'm not really the type of person I don't like this grin and bear mentality, like sort of, you know, if it's not that good, but you should like carry on for a bit. I'm like, if I don't feel it, I'm just like, do you know what, this is shit. Get me out of it. Probably similar to you as well.
Yeah. I said to you earlier, didn't I? Like, people can say, oh, it's very brave to walk away from this and that. Like, I know no other way than to follow my heart's desire.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot to say for that.
I personally know no other way. Like, I'm an emotive person. People always say to me, "Oh, well, you're a Cancer. You're born in July, so of course you are." But and I think there's probably some truth in that. You know what I mean? Like, you're born an emotive person. You're born as someone that either tends to follow their head or their heart, I think. And I've always followed my heart.
I could definitely vouch for that as well.
Yeah, you're the same.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it was very similar to you. It didn't last very long. Doing these 50+ hours, not sleeping so much, and I was losing my tether, really. I was on the gym floor, and there was one night I just got back and I was like, there's no way I can do this anymore. I just physically, I'm drained from it.
It's so ironic, isn't it? Because you're a personal trainer. You're there to make people fit.
And then my own training then went out the window. Didn't go out the window, but it was like training a couple times a week, maybe 3. The trainings were a bit crap. I wasn't rested. caffeine induced, drinking way too much caffeine to try and catch up for the sleep.
Stuck indoors all day.
Stuck indoors all day long in a confined space, giving all my energy. So you find, as a personal trainer, and you'll understand this as well, it's the same with energy. When you give out energy, you almost, you then need to get it back somehow. You need to recharge. But when you're in a constant giving out, giving, you don't leave space for yourself.
I think for people that have, never PT'd before, never coached before, I think they don't realise like how, in a great way, of course, because again, like it's a representation of the energy you're giving, you're putting into people, the value you're putting into people. It's so exhausting.
Yeah.
It's really tiring, man. Like PTing somebody for an hour is like one of the most energy intensive things, not just physically, mentally, but like spiritually. You're giving that person,
mate, you hit the nail on the head.
Energy.
You hit the nail on the head.
You want to make them feel good. You want to motivate them, and you're giving, which is great. It's beautiful. Like that's where the fulfillment from that job comes from.
Yeah.
But it comes at a cost.
That's a really good point. And I think this is character shaping as well. And this can teach you a lot about, especially as men, I think. And well, in fact, I don't think I'm certain of the fact that we can't go by our emotions all the time.
Agreed.
Right? Women, completely different ball game. They're genetically, men and women are very different, similar in some ways, but very different. And if we were to constantly go by our emotions all the time, we wouldn't get anything done. We'd just be like, and the way that I brought this up, because when I look back at this PT stuff and the way where you just explained it about being very spiritual, and I think that intertwines quite nicely, and that's why I brought it up. So doing these some days 10 to 12 hour days, I'd be up on the gym floor by 6, sometimes getting back at 9 p.m. I've then got to give to my, let's say she's Deborah, at 7 p.m. I do a PT session with her. I'm absolutely shattered. I've been out on my feet. I've done all these before. Last thing I really want to do is be doing this. But you can, to some extent, yes, it's tiring, but you can push past. You can always go one more. A bit like, I don't want to David Goggins at one more, stay hard. You know what I mean? But like, it teaches you that sort of, you might not feel like doing those last guys, but you can do it. You have the power to like create that energy, get that spark, and once you're in there and you get going, you kind of like get a bit of a buzz. But in essence, what I'm trying to say is there's definitely, we have the potential to really push past what we think we can achieve, right? Sounds a bit cliche, but that's where I think as a personal trainer, you can understand that dynamic.
100%. So what did you do from there? What was
this is, well, I think it's quite funny. It was around my birthday, and I have a really good friend, Grant, who's actually in Devon. I don't know if you might see him today or not. I might give him a shout. But anyway, he was living in London at the time. He was also a personal trainer. He's awesome with like the technicalities of training and specifics in terms of like mobility and sort of the more training specific stuff. Whereas I'm
physiology.
That's it. And he's really good with this kind of stuff. But anyway, we decided that on the whim, we were going to go away to Barcelona one weekend. I think it was my birthday on the Saturday. We went on the Friday and we booked it the night before. And I actually still had training clients the following week. So we went away, we went to Barcelona off on the whim, we recorded it. We've actually got a video on YouTube somewhere, but I'm not going to let anyone see that.
That'll be in the show notes.
You definitely don't want to see that. I think it's it's not a private link, but anyway, we'll forget about that one. We went to Barcelona, filmed it on a vlog, and I had an amazing time. Like, it was awesome. I got that feeling of like freedom. I wasn't doing that 50-hour week. I just I'm going to go off on the whim on the weekend. Out in the sun, like I'm living again. I'm not just, you're in that cycle going back to like the work thing where I'm existing. I'm not actually like
going through the motions.
Living. I'm not feeling the full human experience. I'm just going on this hamster wheel constantly. Anyway, all those feelings went, of course, because I'm away on holiday for a weekend. But I knew I had to go back to that. But had the time of our lives. We went out, I'm going to be totally honest, we went out 3 nights in a row. We went to a festival. Met some girls, like had a great time doing what everyone does in their early 20s and just having a great time. And then I got back and I got a bit sloppy with my bookings for my clients because I'd been out all weekend. There was a bit of miscommunication with my gym, and I got some of the timings mixed up and stuff. So I think they were starting to be like, well, what's going on here? This got a bit sloppy, and they were very on it. There's a lot of grey area, but they would monitor our conversations. They'd have cameras in the studio. Like, it was very, which again, you could even argue that's a little bit weird. Like, so there was even more reason for me to leave. But anyway, they could start to see a little bit of sloppiness, and I can put my hands up. Like, I knew things were getting a bit sloppy. I kind of just stopped caring.
Yeah.
Because again, following my heart, right? And then, as that was going on, the C word comes into the equation.
Yeah.
2020. And that was happening just as the time I was about to lose my job. And then that happened. C word. I don't want to say it. I don't say it. And 2020 happened. And then everything went out the window.
Yeah. Talk to me about, we spoke about it a bit on our walk this morning, but yeah, let's go into it, man. What was that time, 2020, like for you? It was a transformational time for anybody that wanted to like switch on and wake up to what was going on.
It was beautiful in a lot of ways.
Oh, it's beautiful, mate.
What happened for you then? What was going on?
It coincided, not by coincidence, by design. With a massive spiritual revolution for me. For me, it was a point in my life. I was on a gap year between my law degree and law school. Was experiencing a lot of anxiety and depression, and that was not because of external circumstances in my life. Life was good. It was a reflection of just the internal turmoil of not knowing who I was, not looking at who I was, making unvirtuous choices. My relationship at the time with my girlfriend was not good because of the person that I was. I was not, I had a lot of anger inside, and I was not a pleasant person to be around a lot of the time. And I was just very selfish and very unaware of, who I was and the effect it had on my loved ones around me. But yeah, basically I woke up just before, like I said, it all kickstarted, like you said, it all kickstarted in March 2020. It's 5-year anniversary, like pretty much to the day almost, I think. And everything was stripped back. I just bought the Daily Stoicism book. I just found Stoicism.
It's a good entry level book.
Yeah, fantastic. Then everything was stripped away, couldn't go anywhere. It was beautiful weather, and the days were just spent walking out in the sun, pondering, meditating. And as I said to you, Stoicism quickly sprang into spirituality. And it all just went from there. And by the time we came out of lockdown, like I said, my ideas about life and what I wanted from it had just been flipped on their head.
Yeah. We touched on that earlier, didn't we?
Yeah.
When we were out walking. Yeah, what a time. There's a lot of great parts of that. Almost like we were given this time. Well, we don't like to say given the time. We lost time in some ways.
Yeah.
But to have the time to step back and think about these things, it's almost like, especially if you use it in a positive way and you think, well, I've got this time, I might as well make the most of it. And, things like you said, meditating, reading books, walking. When do you ever really get the time to be able to do it to that extent without? And I think you also had this element of not feeling guilty for it because the entire world stopped.
You've hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a very unique feeling, because now if you go and do that,
you'd be
not the rest of the world has stopped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great point that I didn't even think of consciously. We were all so happy to wake up whenever our body wanted us to wake up, go for a 2-hour walk in the sun, go home, just spend time cooking a home-cooked meal and watch TV with your family.
And I bet you when I said that, or when you think about this right now and you revert back to that time in your head, you almost feel this nostalgia
100%.
And that feeling of what that felt like when the whole world was.
Yeah.
It's like an energetic feeling.
It's interesting because in a time of such fear. When I'm thinking back to that nostalgia, it felt like a carefree time.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I don't want to go into the whole politics of it.
Yeah.
But like, I miss
the day to day.
The certain feeling that some of those moments, I was even speaking about this with my brother recently, were amazing. We were out in the fields playing frisbee, like having a great time, making life feel more fun again by doing things I've never even done in such a long time. Just such random like activities that maybe I would have done in my childhood and then brought them back again.
And that you probably haven't done since.
Yeah.
Like I remember the date. It was the 1st of April 2020. Me and my brother went and got a couple of bikes from our grandma and granddad's, and we just started riding. We didn't know where we were going.
Awesome.
And we cycled, I don't even know how many miles, but we cycled out away from home through the country lanes for 2.5 hours, sat in the field, watched the sheeps and the lambs, came back, and we haven't done that since. And that was a beautiful day.
It was truly a phenomenal time, albeit there's a lot of repercussions, and I think all these things have to happen for a reason. When you, in a really strange, fantastic, beautiful way, I think all these things in the human consciousness in this era all need to happen for the bigger picture, albeit there might be some dark, evil energies and a lot that went behind it with the elite and people high up. I think all these things actually have to happen for a reason, and it's just the earth, this new earth, clearing out, and actually there is very good measure for all these happenings, and I think it all actually is just for the bigger picture, to reset the human consciousness. And I don't think this has just come out by complete chance. And
no. Well, I want to ask you this and hear all of your thoughts and perspectives on it. But for me, I feel a deep connection with God, and I feel like destiny, our future, is something we can change. We absolutely have agency, but a lot of it is mapped out, and for certain, whether you believe in God or not, a lot of it's out of our control. What do you think? Do you think, in your mind, do you feel life is mapped out? How much agency do you feel like you have in the long term when it comes to the big picture?
I think you've got to absolutely strike a balance. And what I mean by that is there's an element of faith, right, in God. I believe in God. But you also have to, you can't be passive. You've still got to take the action. A lot of these things, like the law of attraction, all these things that you can get in abundance. I believe in God, and I believe that there is a lot of, it gets kind of like skewed at points where like people will have this belief but then not do anything, or not really sort of take action. And we need to take action. We need this to work in synergy, right?
It allows them to
there's a
passive
formula almost where we need to have the faith, the discipline, and be a good person and do all these things. But what was your question again?
Just whether you think it's mapped out.
So
how much you can change whatever's mapped out.
There is an element of that, but I feel like I think everything's going to work out in its perfect timing. I'm very much a believer in everything happening for a reason. Of course, we need to learn from our mistakes. If you do the same thing over and over again, you're not going to get any progress, because it's like Albert Einstein, right? There's the famous quote. What was his famous quote?
Einstein's?
Insanity is doing
the same thing over and over.
Got it in the end. But
the definition of insanity is doing the same thing
we've got to give,
different results.
That's it.
Yeah.
Bang on. We've got to give life a meaning. Life doesn't happen to us. It happens for us. Right?
Yeah, I agree.
So we need to go and create these opportunities. We need to expand our mind. And not everyone is destined to do that. That is my honest opinion.
I think
What do you think?
I believe in free will in the short. I act as though it's free will in the short term, but determinism in the long term. Free will in the micro, determinism in the macro.
Nice. That's it. I've not heard it like that before. That's a nice way to put it.
Yeah, when I think about like long term, like the woman I'm going to end up with, how many kids I have, if I'm going to have kids, you know, where I'm going to end up living, where I'm going to end up dying.
Do you think about that stuff?
Yeah.
As in, like, for example, like a lot of people, and including myself, I visualize, I look into these things, but like, for example, are you clear on what that might look like?
Absolutely not.
No,
I've got my
I'm
idea.
just
I've
curious.
got my ideal vision of what I want it to be. Like, I want to have 5 kids, 3 boys, 2 girls. I can tell you the boys' names. And I know the kind of woman I want to have by my side through it all. Like, I have an idea of how I want my life to be, but that I have to remain cognizant because I'm a planner. I like to visualize and I like to have a plan.
Yeah.
When it comes to that, I've got to, number one, remain aware and conscious of the fact that it can't necessarily all plan out how I want it to. And number two, this ideal I've got in my mind may not actually be the ideal I want in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time. It might not be the ideal that's going to best serve me. Yeah. I might be divorced 3 times over. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Die a bachelor.
Well, hopefully not, mate.
Hopefully not. We all hope not, right? But I say we all know people that have been there. We've all heard of people at least that have been there. Like we've. What about you? Do you have your ideals? Do you tend to think in ideals? I'm definitely an idealist, 100%.
Yeah, I definitely have kind of similar path there. Although being more so clear than ever, I mean, great successful men, there's a correlation between like planning 5 to 10 years in advance, right? And I've definitely seen an increase in just my overall life quality and my overall general awareness of myself by having a vision, a mission. Every man needs a mission. That's really important before anything else.
You definitely need a North Star.
Yeah.
You need someone to look to whilst you're,
absolutely,
to help you navigate.
Yeah. And I think having these like longer term big pictures and having a vision is super important to have that North Star. But again, you have that, but again, like you just said, things are always constantly changing, aren't they?
Yeah.
So that might be totally useless to me. But I think we don't want to be coasting through life, passive, and not actually having any direction. And especially when you look at this, when you're single or in a relationship, in a marriage, that woman needs you to have that North Star. You need to guide her. You need to have that direction. And I think, without sounding too harsh, but a lot of people in the hometown going down with the mortgage route and doing this job they don't want to do, going back to turn on the TV, doing this repetitive thing that they don't really want to do, doesn't appeal to me.
No.
And I think some of the greatest men have a vision, a plan, and the best leaders will guide their women, and it really improves every metric of a relationship, is having a crystal clear vision on what you actually want out of life.
I agree with that. I think there's always going to be men and women that subvert the traditional gender norms, but the way men and women are wired, like the man plays the active role, the woman plays the passive role in the majority of well-functioning relationships. I just think that they're the natural roles, the natural energies of the masculine and feminine.
Of course, the woman's there. It's like passing of the weather and the clouds in the sky. They come, they go. The emotions, they come, they go, and you just ride with it and you navigate. If you go by their emotions, forget about it, because you're just going to be ruled by their mood and emotion. But this is why you need that North Star. You need to be very sure of yourself and be able to navigate and say, look, if there is certain problems that arise, I'm going to deal with it, and you just follow me, and it's going to be absolutely fine. And when we don't have that dynamic, I think that's when the relationships don't work. Of course, there are some that have more of a masculine, feminine frame, more sort of neutral. I read a really good book back in the day, and actually a lot of this stuff that I know is just from my own trial and error in my relationships. But The Way of a Superior Man, David Dida. It's a great book if you haven't read it, and it talks all about this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's super important we know if we're sort of more masculine or feminine.
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah, and I think a good woman will help ground you. You know, as an ambitious man, like I said, you're looking at that North Star, and oftentimes I find I'm so focused on the existential, my eyes are up here so much that I'm tripping over what's actually in front of my path right here, right now. I'm so involved in what's up there in the existential that I'm not attending to the day-to-day in the way that I need to.
That's a good point.
And
what do you mean by that, as in not attending to the day-to-day?
Like, I'm looking at that ideal 10 years into the future, and as a result, I'm like chasing that when really there's something today that really needs my attention. That's maybe a deviation from that North Star.
Do you mean like general, like give me an example?
Just like pragmatic stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm curious because I can relate to what you're saying.
Yeah. So like, I'm focused on becoming a world champion in my sport. So today, like, I've got to go training because all I'm thinking about is, you know,
of course,
being at the Euros, being at the Nationals, being at the World Championships, and you know, I'm thinking, well, if I'm not training today, like I'm not working towards that. Yeah. When actually, I trained really hard last night. I trained really hard yesterday morning and the day before. My body needs a bit of a rest. Also, by the way, like I've got some tape study to do, which I've been neglecting. I'd actually be better served not training or training much lighter this evening and actually doing some tape study instead. You know what I mean? Things like that. Or like, it would be really helpful to my family if I just spent a bit more time around the house taking care of a few things.
Just the general day-to-day. It might have been like,
that's
I
it.
don't
And
know,
that's actually
the laundry or some basic stuff.
Yeah, that will actually, you know, help the family out, bring the energy down if it's getting a bit heated.
But that's also a spiritual practice in itself. It's finding that balance, because I can't actually remember, and the only reason I've just butted in now because it's just sparked this thought. I actually saw a really interesting tweet not long ago, and I'm gonna have to pull it out maybe after this. But it was on the basis of like, before you try and work out these spiritual ideas, you need to get the basic things in order first. There's a lot of interest that I found that quite interesting. Like, for example, the dishes, or like the basic fundamentals need to be taken care of before you start trying to. I thought that was quite interesting.
You got to have your house in order before you go out and try and conquer the world.
Yeah. There's a lot of truth in that. I can definitely see that.
Yeah, definitely. I can't remember where we got to in terms of like your life journey. Barcelona. We got to Barcelona.
a mad session in Barcelona. A 3-day stint.
A mad session in Barcelona, which sounds like it might have been.
We got to COVID, didn't we?
Yes, we did. Yes, you got back. COVID hit. And well, we'll talk about lockdown. Tell me about your lockdown.
Yeah, I mean, similar in the sense, like, it was albeit challenging at times, also quite incredible with the extra time that we had, as we talked about just now. It was a lot of reflection, a lot of introspection, a lot of study, really trying to go inwards. The first part of lockdown was, nothing really matters. Yeah, I'll have some beers with my brother. It's a Tuesday night, you know, we'll do a bit of gaming maybe, like, you know, just living the dream really. But far from it, really. It's really not living the dream. And I realised that was not something that I could continue doing for the entire duration of lockdown. It was more so just going inwards. I shaved off all my hair. I did the whole, you know, buzz cut thing.
Yeah, cool.
Which I guess we're like.
I wish I'd done that. I've never shaved my head.
I've got some clippers out there, mate. So before you go back today.
On camera.
We'll get them now. So yeah, I think that's one of those things, isn't it? Like, there's something about the hair and spirituality, either like shaving
system.
It off.
It's an extension of your nervous system.
And you have the ideas that if you grow it, I've seen loads of stuff, people saying, yeah, you know, you're smarter if you grow it. Like, there's a lot of, apparently you can, you see so much stuff online, don't you? But there's a lot to say for shaving it off or like growing it.
Going back to like, you know, changing your clothes, you feel like a new man. Changing your environment, you do. Like, something like your hair.
Yeah, similar thing, right? So did all that, and I had a good time, but I used it very productively. Got in incredible shape because I was very lucky enough. In fact, where we are now, a family friend had a gym at her house, a great functioning gym. It had everything in there that I needed to get in shape. And I was already coming from the gym that I was working in London. I was very aware of programming, workout volume, the sciencey bits. And it was just like, I knew that I had an amazing opportunity because all the gyms were shut, right? So I was like, okay, well, I've got this amazing gym set up. It had everything like bench press, squat rack, deadlift platforms, accessory movements, multi-joint, like it had everything. So I was like, wow, I'm really onto something here. And it was so beautiful in a way because I'd go in there, and normally in a commercial gym, you've got music blasting out. You can't really think straight. I'm going into this gym. There's no music, state-of-the-art equipment. And I'm like, I've got a golden opportunity here. And I bet you a lot of people, like I knew lads that were just buying on Amazon. You know, it all sold out on Amazon with all these home gym
like
things.
the weightlifting sets.
And I had this amazing setup of mine. So I was like, wow, like this is, I'm going to cut out all this like BS with like drinking and gaming. And like, I was like, I'm going to get absolutely jacked. And I got a really good taste for it because for once, because previously, as I said, I was at this gym and I was hammering 50 hours a week of PT and I wasn't training much myself. I felt myself kind of like I was still in good shape, but not up to my standards.
Yeah.
And got this home gym. And I was like, was consistently training week after week, locked in with food, even though back then my food was very different to what it was now. I was doing the whole counting if it fits your macros stuff. And I was still eating generally quite good, but I'd still like eat loads of cereal and like try and find ways to like make these like nice fancy desserts, but that's not my style anymore. Anyway, I was getting in really good shape. I was out a lot walking, but my soul, I think every man goes through this, is like, and I think these phases are really good where all you're doing is you just want to get jacked.
Yeah.
Like a year or so of just like, right. And I think it's good for every man to have that focus and have this gym rat experience for a little while. And that was it, you know, watching motivational videos. I wanted to be the most jacked. I was getting lean, I was getting stronger, I was more rested because I didn't have a job. I had more time. So
the doors were open for everybody to be a professional athlete. Go train.
Yeah,
apart from the fact that most people didn't have their gyms, but you know what I mean? You don't need the gym. The gym for you was like a competitive advantage and like a brilliant opportunity that other people didn't have, but everybody had the opportunity to train,
you could
rest,
even if
train,
you
rest.
I mean, I remember when this is a bit later on, but this is when I realized that wow, I'm getting a bit of traction on social media as well with posting some workouts. I did the whole lean that was it was called back in the day, Lean in Quarantine, and it was a program that I'd made, Lean in Quarantine. I was trying to get people
that was
on
your name.
and actually it worked, and I was getting some interest. I was like, flipping out, like it wasn't the rates back then, it wasn't a high ticket service, it was just very like cheapy, but the money was coming in. I was like, okay,
also you started coaching people online.
Yeah, like that's when I got a taste for it in COVID. I was like, oh wow, like my mates want to sign up.
Kind of spontaneously. Like you were posting workouts and people were like, can you coach me?
Yeah. And I did like stories. I was in a short period of time, I would say in 8 weeks, I gave myself 8 weeks, 12 weeks, I probably got one of the best shape I've ever been in because I had so much more time.
Yeah.
And it was funny because I wasn't even doing this in a gym environment. I was in, yes, it had good equipment, but it didn't have like everything in the sense you go into a gym, you've got every variation. I was just doing the fundamentals, the basics. And I got an amazing shape, like the best shape I've ever been in. I had the buzz cut. I was like, all right, I'm onto something here. And then, in true nature, started posting online. I got an email from a really, really good model agency that were based in LA, Barcelona, Copenhagen, and there was one other place. I can't remember right now. Right, we really like your look. You're going to do this, do that. You're in great shape. We'd like to fly you out to Barcelona. This was just as COVID was starting to like ease off a little bit. I was like, well, I'm pretty shredded and I don't know what else I'm going to do right now. Next minute I know, I'm in Barcelona. I've got a model apartment. I'm like, right, okay. I got paid on a weekly basis to be there. I was like, right, this is pretty cool. A lot of stuff it was still kind of like around that COVID time, so a lot of things were shut. And but I thought it was a pretty good gig, right? I had my own place and got put forward some jobs. It was a little bit slow, earned a little bit of money, And then the intentions was that I was going to go to LA. Anyway, all this COVID stuff got good. Then it started, it was very up and
Went
down.
back, yeah.
Right?
Went back into lockdown.
So this is what kept happening. So I was still living in Barcelona, and then I stayed out there, and with this whole stuff with COVID, it just didn't quite fall through. And before I knew it, I was back home again. So that didn't last very long, but I still got to be in Barcelona.
Yeah.
Had a great time. It was still COVID over there. Met some really cool people, and one of my best mates that I mentioned earlier, that I met him through that model apartment, and we were boys back then. He was like a bit of a bodybuilder as well, so we got paid to go to the gym, in a state-of-the-art gym, and just get ready for our modelling or whatever. So it's it was good back in the day.
Yeah.
And then moved back to UK again, back to the drawing board. God, man, this is I'm trying to like retrace my steps.
Yeah.
Seems like a long time ago now. But
5 years.
yeah,
5 years.
no, it's crazy, isn't it? I mean, to think that was 5 years ago is just nuts.
Yeah. Yeah, it does feel a long time ago though. When I think about what I've done, like from 2020 to now. Yeah, I mean, entered into a career, exited a career.
Yeah.
Done lots of stuff in between.
And it's just constantly changing as well. Well, in my world it is anyway. People are probably looking at me thinking, this guy's absolutely nuts. Like, what has this guy been doing?
His life's
I'm like,
chaos.
This guy's utterly chaos. Like, but do you know what? I actually wouldn't have it any other way. And this is just how I am. And I've tried these things, and I've, again, it's this constant trying new things. And if things don't work out, it's not even the fact it doesn't work out. It's just a new phase of your life.
It's time.
Yeah, and I must say I'm quite enjoying this one at the moment, and we haven't had so much chaos in recent times. So.
Yeah.
It's been a bit more, steady, but apart from the recent travels. But there we go.
Yeah. So yeah, you had that like modelling gig in Barcelona, came back to this country, and then was that kind of when you started going all in on the online?
Yeah, I needed to figure out a way to crack this online world, because I got a taste for it. I mean, I was still coaching clients when I was in Barcelona as well, but it was enough to get me, like, it was enough to actually think, oh well, I reckon if I carry on with this, I could be up to a pretty good level where I could maybe carry this on. And I guess getting that feeling of being away in Barcelona gave me that zest for life, that feeling of, this is it, I'm away, meeting new people, and that gave me that spark again to really want to carry that on. So I got back, went on holiday with my brother to Croatia. Again, I was still earning a bit of money online, nothing crazy, but enough to like be able to think, oh wow, I could make something of this, like I just said. And then I just that was the turning point really, to try and build something online. And that's where taking socials more serious, I wasn't on X then, but more so like Instagram, and really making a bit of not a name for myself, but it started getting
building your brand.
Yeah, it started getting some traction where like I was posting, and I found that it was effortless. I'd be on stories, I'd do a lot of talking head videos, I'd show a lot of physique stuff, a lot of technical training bits, and people were generally curious. I had mates like, they were like, man, you are like, how have you got so jacked? Because I did. I mean, I used that time, like I said, at COVID, to get in incredible shape. Yeah. That was my sole mission. I just wanted to really push the envelope.
How much of a presence and brand did you have on Instagram before you started doing the health stuff? How much of it was from like your modelling gigs?
Yeah, quite a lot of. So my demographic was very much, a lot of blokes, a lot of women. Doing shoots with quite big photographers in London. A lot of these accounts were quite big. A lot of big photographers that kind of gave me a bit of a boost.
Yeah.
But then it went from sort of, because modelling wasn't so consistent, I was also interested in health, so I was putting out a lot of that as well. But it always felt more in alignment, talking more about my interests, philosophy, health, mindset, and all that kind of stuff. So I guess both of them kind of like intertwined, don't they?
I was going to say, like, I think like they're probably more synergistic than people think.
Yeah.
Because like, the thing with modelling is like you are the subject, so like people are interested in you.
Yeah.
It's not so much like what you do; it's like you said, who you are. Like the charisma you're able to put out in a practice such as modelling is a reflection of what's within your philosophy, your mindset. your health, your fitness is reflected in your aesthetic, your physique. So
Yeah.
the more synergistic, I imagine, than people
Absolutely.
might think on the surface.
Yeah, but that health journey is quite another interesting subject in itself, because I feel like on the subject of change, what we were just talking about is that even within the health industry and your fitness, your values, all these things are in change as well, and your ideas of health and what that might look like to you. Because when I look back at that, I was running, when I was getting in really good shape, I did a push-pull legs 6 times a week. I was tracking macros, I was tracking calories. I haven't done that in 5 years. Tracking calories seems ridiculous to me right now, and my views have changed on that. And what I thought was healthy, yes, on a surface level, and physically I was absolutely peeled, like the leanest I've ever been, like veins in my look, like that might have looked cool on Instagram, but it was far from cool in real life. Like I was ridiculously lean, like weighing out food, for example. I don't want to be doing that. Like
No.
So like I thought I was healthy then. Yes, I was healthier than I was when I was working in London, but like now I feel like I've really cracked the system and feel the healthiest I've ever been and the best shape of my life by doing a lot less. And my ideas and ideology that is completely changed over time to what I thought was healthy, and now I'm like, okay, this feels a bit more in alignment. And the journey's like forever. I don't think it doesn't. I say it's forever changing. Right now I'm quite happy as to where I am, and I think you can get your baseline health to a really good point. But it's funny that what I thought was healthy in 2020 has now changed and come full circle.
Talk to me about the progression of that, because you and I have very similar views on health when it comes to everything from nutrition to supplementation to light stimulus, temperature stimulus. Like a lot of people, this is what we're talking about. There's a good community, a good like movement in America. Like I think the best way to like label it, give it a definition, is based health. I think that
or unconventional.
Yeah. Most people in this country, and I say not just in this country, the mainstream is focused on calorie counting, like you said, getting your steps in, tracking steps,
eat your protein, generic.
Yeah, very generic stuff. Obviously, like we're a bit more nuanced than that, so I think that's fair to say.
Absolutely.
Where
do you start?
Take me from weighing out your food to drinking 2 liters of raw milk a day, and supplementing with Shilajit and methylene blue. Like, how did we get from there to there?
Well, I'm really glad that you brought that up, and that is a really, really good question. So, like, I'll try and break it down. Of course, that's quite a broad answer, but I think there's this desire, and I think what triggered this more than ever was the happenings of 2020, the question marks, the way that the governments handled things here in the UK.
Who the government?
This new political divide that was brought upon this series of events. And by going more inwards with the meditations, by connecting with people online in the similar realm, in the similar space who have these ideas, you slowly start to connect the dots. So what I find is the healthier that you become, the more in tune you are with your spirituality, the more in tune you are with finances. All these things are kind of like interconnected. And I connected with a few guys online that were in a similar space to me, had similar values and belief systems on this whole 2020 thing. And as I said, the healthier that I become, the more I did this work, meditations. I was really big on meditation. I do it like religiously every single day. And I started to see the cracks, and I've always had a very open mind. I like that about myself. I'm always listening to what other people have said, and of course there's a lot of things I believe in wholeheartedly, but I'm very open-minded. And what I was doing, it felt as if, yes, I had this great physique and I was diced, as I was saying, but there was something missing. I didn't feel that was what health should feel like. I was lean on the outside, but my nutrition was not locked in. I wasn't eating a whole foods diet. I was doing the whole counting calories, macros, obsessing over that. Monster Energies, all the classic gym bro era things. And I always felt like there was more. And as we were talking about, and I know you specialize in this as well, with like optimizing testosterone. Back then, I, for example, didn't have that skyrocket energy. I didn't feel totally locked in. There was something missing. There was a few pieces of the puzzle that just that weren't there. And I think over time, when I went through that era for a reason, but now I've went down this maybe quote unquote unconventional route because I wanted to find answers. I wanted to understand why this whole COVID thing happened and what was going on here, and it all kind of like crossovered at the same time. So I would try these things. I'd locked in, you know, food is an obvious one to start with, right? Because that's such a easy fix.
That's what you're putting in your body.
That's what we do
day,
3 times a day. It's an investment in your health. It's high quality input, high quality output. Same, you know, you've got the barefoot shoes. You're investing in this because it's something you use every day. The water filter system is in there because I use it every single day. Like, this is like just a no-brainer to get things kick-started. And I think as I spent more time researching, and not just researching, but my own trial and error, you know, you see the things on the light diet, for example, as you know, polyester, all these kind of things. And I never really batted an eyelid before all this. I was very much like that gym bro. Oh, I must hit my macros, train 6 times a week, do my cardio on the stepper, have my monster energy. Like, it's as if like the bro starter pack, and yes. I'm living that. I was that guy, right? And I still have an element of that. You know, I love the whole bro thing, and I think it's great. But there was a huge transition over COVID because I was trying all these new things, and I continue to. Again, it's a learning curve. I love. You've seen me with the supplement stacks, and I like trying these new things, and it's an experiment, and I take a lot of pleasure and satisfaction in this human experiment. So anyway, gone on a bit of a tangent there, but in essence, it's just once you start feeling better and better, it opens up more doors. So like once you try these new things, whether it be Shilajit or like these not so or unconventional supplements, which are now, by the way, making themselves into the mainstream. Like these are actually what we thought were unconventional, are now all becoming like this time right now is the best time to be alive. With this Trump coming in the US, we've now got freedom of speech on X, where people are coming together like you and I, and there's some great people in the X space right now who we've both networked with. And we're at a time now where we're seeing these, what we thought was like a simple one, fluoride, which is now being banned in the US. Like all these things were like...
They've got a health secretary that's actually fit and healthy in RFK.
That's what I mean. But all these, or I was called a conspiracy theorist back in COVID, and I've been that guy. And all these so-called conspiracies are actually now becoming, we're understanding now we've got this new leadership. They're actually being pushed into the mainstream, and it's incredible. Paul Saladino, is it Paul Saladino?
Paul Saladino.
Paul Saladino, excuse me, is now trying to ban seed oils. He's trying to, all this stuff that I started questioning during my time in 2020 is now, you know, albeit it's 5 years down the line, which is always the case, right? Spooky that. Yeah. But it's now become out in mainstream media. So I think that's a huge leap forwards. But
100%.
Yeah, I may have gone on a tangent there, I think what I'm trying to get at is that now, you know, by implementing all these things, and I was aware of these things 5 years ago, when this was kind of like a new space, the raw milk. I've known this stuff. I'm not trying to like big myself up. What I'm saying is that all these, what people are only starting to like question now because of these new systems. I kind of was practicing. I've questioned these things way back.
Yeah.
Like when it was like
for a while.
Yeah.
Talk to me about your meditation practice.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really, it's a ritual by now. So what I mean by that, you know, habits take a while to stick, but now it's like brushing my teeth. It's just something that I do in the morning, literally simple as 10 minutes. Not all meditations are the same. The general gist is start off with breath work, being in the present moment, being mindful of the now and the obvious things. But then some of them are more geared towards that visualization of what I might want certain things to look like, how I'm going to handle situations, you were arriving today, how I'm going to be on the podcast, and and you can really hone in. And the meditation isn't this just fixed thing where like you just have to take control of like the now and focus on the breath. You can make every meditation completely different. It's entirely up to you what you want to make of it. But as a simple start, I mean, just being aware of the present moment and controlling the breath in itself is a very good starting point, and then you can kind of go with there. To be honest, I've only 10 minutes is enough for me. I know a guy, I think recently, Mason, who I've worked with before, Mason Cure. He's done like 3-hour meditations where I've not really tried that myself yet, but I think such a high return of investment. Of course, you can be in a meditative state in the gym as we are now. You can literally practice meditation in every single moment if you're in tune with the present moment and your breath, and are in tune of this little chipmunk in the back of our minds that's going
the 101, or I should say like 1,000,001 things that are just
100%
going through the brain. It's that, let them go through, don't try and catch them, don't get distracted by them, let them go.
There's I mean, that just on that note, I mean, the very starting point for me was when I went through a bit of a dark time at uni, through my own fault, really, going out too much, toxins in my system, as you can imagine, lack of sleep, alcohol, booze, and all that kind of stuff, and went through a bit of a rough breakup. And I bought The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle. I don't know if you ever read it.
I haven't read it.
And
it's got to be read at some point.
Have to read it. It's
a classic.
You need to be given these at school. Like this is a Bible, really. And it was I'll never forget it either. I was reading this book on the way back from Bournemouth Uni at the time, and I must have been maybe 45, 50 pages in, and I keep rereading some of these pages, and it was almost like I put the book down. I looked around in the train. I was like, wow, like this is nuts. Like I'm actually present for once. Like this is what it felt. What he said, I can't remember the exact line, but it really resonated with me. And then from there, I was like, whoa, all this story that I've been playing back and all these happenings, I could finally it resonated so hard when I just sat there. And I was like, wow. And it was like this epiphany. And I'll literally never forget that moment on the train. And wow. I think from there, it's, don't get me wrong, we all have responsibilities, we have stresses, we have lots that we're thinking about, but it is very simple, really. Practicing presence, and of course, again, it's a skill. It's not something that just happens. But the more we can get into that state of mind, and when you look at this on a very big picture, we have stuff going, wars, world wars, and all this comes from the extreme unconscious mind. We shouldn't be fighting each other. Gaza, for example, this is on like a very serious, the highest level of the highest level. And if we were, in this new earth, and we're in tune, and the present moment, without going into too much of the technicalities, is all we really have right now, and 100%. It's always with us, and 100%. Our breath is our home.
That's the beautiful thing. The present moment. Sorry to interrupt. The present moment.
I just got into it.
No. That's an epiphany. Yeah. The present moment is all we have, but the beautiful thing is we always have it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, because when we say,
it's nuts though, isn't it? Yeah. But like, you can feel that right now. So when we're now in the right now, and people, maybe they'll sense this on the camera, like this feeling right now when you are in this present moment is, in my opinion, is God, is everything, is 100%. It's trying to articulate that.
Yeah, like because when an Eastern philosopher, a Buddhist, whatever guru it is, says all you have is the present moment, that's scary. It's like, well, hang on a second. Yeah, all I've got is the present moment.
And your mind's then, Jesus Christ. Your mind's now looking for like, but that's what it does.
Shit, I've actually got nothing. Yeah. But hang on, the beautiful thing is, you're always going to have that.
And that's what the mind is constantly trying to do. That little chipmunk, whatever you want to call it, it's always trying to, it's this amazing, the capacity we have. It's, if we use this instrument properly, it's incredible, but it's very easy. And you can sense the people that have these unconscious thought patterns. You can see it. You can just, energy doesn't lie. And it's true. Like,
telepathy is a real thing.
Absolutely. And man, that's another big one. Wow, we're really coming out with the...
Oh yeah, we're into the heavy hitters now. It's something I've been aware of, been blessed to be party to now for a number of years. People that I'm very close with, the closest people in my life, I know when they're thinking about me, they know when I'm thinking about them.
Amazing.
And when we're in each other's presence, there are
So
so
true.
many moments where it's
So true.
jinx.
Yeah. That's no coincidence.
No, it's not.
No.
And like more science is coming out now on it in terms of brainwaves, EMFs, like the whole EMF thing. People are really waking up as to, you know, how EMFs can really, you know, damage your health. And
huge.
And it's really making people, I think that's the easiest way to make people realize, okay, so you don't believe that I can have a brainwave that can move through time and space and interact with your brainwave, but there's a Wi-Fi router in there that's connected to that phone, and you believe in that because you can see it working.
Yeah.
What's really the difference? It's all just the electromagnetic field.
Of course.
We all know there's more to this earth than, you know, the concrete beneath our feet, the trees that grow out of the ground, and the, you know, the water in the oceans. But as soon as it's telepathy or, you know,
I think on that note, with
any kind of psychic ability, people are like, oh, that's woo woo.
That's so true, and I think you hit the nail on the head, and that's why, of course, like you and I are here today, that's not a coincidence. When you look at it like that, that's come from a thought. Like, it's as simple as that. The planes flying through the sky, that has come from the brain to start with as a thought, right? So, like, that is incredible to me. Like, the fact that that's just started from a thought, come into physical form, like that in itself is just beyond imagination. But what I was getting at, like going back to the telepathy and the subject of, I was like, oh, 11:11. Some people like laugh at me, right? Like, what are you on about, mate? Like, what do you mean 11:11? That's just gay or whatever. Probably shouldn't use that on here.
Oh no, mate, no. We use the word gay.
Oh, can we? Right, retarded then, whatever.
No. We use the word gay frequently on this.
Right, sweet.
This podcast.
So okay, I'm glad we cleared that up. So
we all know what you mean when you say it's gay.
All right, sweet, cool. Yeah, GHEY. Okay, so yeah. On that note, I mean, the coincidence that I don't even believe in coincidence. I just think this whole synchronicity with the time, with telepathy, like this is. I think this, in order for these things to happen, you need to get your physical health, mental, emotional health, spiritual health. This all needs to be at a certain level for you to even understand these kind of things.
Yeah. Well,
if you are...
The mind and body is how we interact with this world.
Yeah.
This world is what we're living in. So any, my understanding, what I feel I know is that my soul permeates beyond this existence, beyond, this mortal life. But this mortal life is the one that I'm living, and I can't live it without a brain and a body.
Yeah.
So you've got to take care of your brain and your body if you want to get the most out of this life, and therefore get the most out of this universe and all the existence that's in it and beyond.
Yeah. Spot on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With your meditation, breath work, there's certain protocols that you like to do, certain seconds, or whatever feels right to you?
It's a good question. I think a simple one, I mean, particularly in reference to the breathing, breath work, I'll always, after a workout, do box breathing religiously. Just a really good way to get your nervous system, like, you go into the gym to stress your body, you're pushing yourself. And what's really important after a workout then is to regulate your nervous system. Because if you've gone in before and you're lifting these heavy weights and you're sort of still in that stressed environment, neurologically, like it's really important then to just transition. So simple, I mean, everyone can do this. Box breathing. This is simple. 4 seconds, 4 seconds hold, 4 seconds the other side. So anyone can do that. And just giving yourself that, it can be literally a couple of minutes after your workout just to transition and put your body in that stressed environment rather than the relaxed environment.
Yeah.
Is super important. Not just from sort of in terms of like your nervous system being relaxed, but then you've got to look at then in terms of muscle building, and we go in there to stress our body, but we also then want to prioritize recovery. So when you're putting your body in that nice relaxed state, you're then setting yourself up for recovery. And this could be particularly important if you're training perhaps like in the late afternoon, for example.
Yeah,
and you want to
absolutely.
sleep and things like that. But I'm very much I train like, and you'll see this afternoon, of course, to train with intensity, but I'm huge on also recovering properly. And I put a lot of emphasis on that because previously I've not done that. And the results from just prioritizing recovery have been a game changer.
Well, that's where the growth takes place.
Yeah, absolutely.
The session, the stress is the stimulus.
Yeah.
But it's the stimulus for the growth that's going to take place when you're recovering from it.
Yeah.
And I think when you become aware of your central nervous system, the difference between the sympathetic and the parasympathetic, and how you can influence those.
Took the words out of my mouth.
Yeah, with something as simple as your breath, that is so powerful because you can bring yourself up and bring yourself down basically on demand.
Yeah,
and
how liberating that you have control over that.
Yeah,
you can literally just do that by implementing a simple practice such as breath work.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then like when you add other protocols on top of it, such as, in the morning, get up, put salt in your water, get under a cold shower. Like I woke up at 5 this morning, which is much earlier than I usually do. And if I just got up, got in the car and drove down,
checked your phone straight away.
Or... I would have got here, I would have felt groggy, went downstairs, salt in the water, went outside, feet on the grass. It was already starting to get light.
Yeah. Well, you've done these tiny adjustments that pay the dividends, right? Mm-hmm. These are the very small things, and it's living intentionally. You don't want to be a zombie on autopilot, right? You see a lot of these people, going back to our conversation, on autopilot, like checking a phone, just not drinking, go straight to the caffeine. Like there's so many things that we can be doing. These tiny adjustments can literally change your life over time with the compound interest.
But even with that routine, like a healthy routine, like I said, get outside, hydrate, ground, set the circadian clock, get under the cold shower, adrenaline, cortisol, dopamine, get all the catecholamines flowing. Even with that, that's a healthy routine. But when you get used to it, that can start happening on autopilot. And you don't,
so true. It's a really good point.
Let it happen on autopilot sometimes. It's not that you always have to be so deliberately conscious about every single thing, but try and stay aware of it. Try and still live it.
It's a really good point.
Routine, and like you don't want to lose the presence in that too much. Like you don't just want to end up going through the motions of that.
It's a really good point. I think there's definitely ways you can, of course, by mixing up the routine once in a while.
Deviation from the routine.
That's it. And we literally talked about that earlier. And I think that's super important, right? To have this, we want to be whimsical, this beauty of life that we can go and do whatever we want to do. I've made that mistake before, man. I can totally relate. And that's why I find it interesting that you brought that up, because I've had those thoughts. It's like the cold shower thing. I did the whole cold shower thing religiously for hours. And I got at one point more caught up in my morning routine than I was for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
So I was like, my morning routine became my life.
Yeah.
And that's ridiculous, right? Isn't it?
Yeah, your morning routine should be serving
my morning's my life
for your day.
Yeah.
It should
so
be setting you
that's
up for
when
your
I
day.
think you see these red flags, and it's adapting to that.
Over optimization.
There you go.
Is neuroticism.
Neuroticism.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting point.
100%. Do you pray? Would you say you pray? Do you feel like that's different to
More
meditation?
so in recent times. So I only say that as what's been going on in my personal life. There's been some really testing times recently. And what I think's interesting is that for some reason it's taken me this long, only until something really bad has happened, where it's forced me to do that. Why not? Why can't we just pray before this shit hits the fan? Why can't we pray about our future and all these great things that can happen? So what I'm saying is, only in recent times I've really made this more of a practice, is intentionally praying. Because when, like I said, things got really bad, I was physically going to the church to go and do this, and I'd pray. But it's only taken me until now. And that's the point. We don't need to wait for these events to happen. We can actually pray for our friends, for our family, for our future.
To say thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Do you?
Yeah. For awesome. What I just said, I think...
How does that look like to you?
I just really prayed to say thank you.
Like, do you in your head, or you physically, like, how does that
A lot
look?
of times in my head, what I've started doing the past year, last summer we lost my grandma. Didn't lose, she moved on. And my grandma really, when I look back on it, and I was looking back on it, when she was in her final weeks and months, my grandma introduced me to God in the sense that she was a Christian. I'm not a Christian. I don't prescribe to any particular religion. Hindu on my dad's side, Christian on my mum's side, and that came from my grandma. And that's for me, my visualization of God in like a personified form growing up was always through Jesus and traditional Christian themes. So when she was, like I said, like in her final weeks and months, and then since she's passed, whenever I pray to thank God, the universe, for my health, freedom, everything I've got in life, I find myself doing this. I do this a lot. I do this a lot. And then I'll sometimes just hold my hand like that, which is more the Hindu, the Hindu body language, for lack of a better term.
Have you studied the Hinduism?
Not studied. And that's I can't really say I've studied Christianity.
No,
Either.
just curious, because was it your father?
Yeah. So he's Hindu. They're Hindu on their side of the family, coming from Nepal and India. I used to read the Bible a lot when I was a kid. Obviously, it was something you did in school. And like I said, being raised Christian to some extent. But no, I never really studied Hinduism or Christianity or any religion in general. I've just really studied life. Like I said, read a lot of philosophy, a lot of people's perspectives on life. And just listen to what God's got to say. But yeah, I find myself doing that a lot. That's a nice physical anchor.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think these things
rather than
can
just
be really
thinking
useful.
it in your mind, you do a physical action and it really solidifies what you're saying. And like I said, for me,
that's my dad. I think he's got a valid reason to shout across the road for that one.
Yes, absolutely, man.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I can't remember where we were.
Talking about
Get
prayer.
lost in his conversations.
Yeah.
It's good though.
Yeah.
But
yeah. For me, my prayer really is just saying thank you.
Yeah.
Not to say that's a reflection of where I'm at in my life. I'm not in a situation where like I'm really asking God, like, please, like I want this, I need this, please give me this. I feel I'm in a
coming
good
from
place.
Gratitude.
Yeah, I'm in a good place, so I've got trust.
Like, you're not like, oh, protect me, like give me the strength. It's framing it, isn't it?
Yeah. It's that old, I think it's a line from a movie. I asked for strength, so God gave me an opportunity to be strong. I asked for courage, so God put me in fearful situations. That kind of thing. I just I'm in a really good place, and I've just got trust in God's plan. And very grateful for it. So a lot of prayer, just taking the time each day to say thank you, and oftentimes embodying that with that old, I don't even know what you call it, just marking the cross on yourself.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Supplements. Let's go into supplements. Give me some of your favourite supplements that you've tried.
Well, look, to be transparent, to clear it up at the very start, like there's time and place, right, for all these things, supplements.
No medical advice being given on this podcast.
You get the crowd, of course, it's not natural, like synthetic, you don't need supplements, you've got the sun, you've got the diet. The problem that we have is that, well, there's many reasons, but the first one that springs to mind, for example, like in US, the soil, we don't have the nutrients, we don't have the
the topsoil has been desecrated.
It's been desecrated, that's the best way to put it. And it's the same with our social environment, right? In places like London, in cities, the air quality, even the vegetables, the anti-nutrients, the glyphosate that the farmers are spreading on the broccoli was the first thing that came to my head, but on the vegetables. So we're actually getting these anti-nutrients, and it's nothing like what it used to be. So I think the best way I could explain the supplements and why I take them and why I think they could be helpful for some people, depending on, of course, like supplement, what works for me and what I take as my stack, is because of my goals and what I might be lower in, or it's all dependent on the individual. But these have their place, and it's to return us to a baseline of health, right?
Yeah.
Because of these because of today's society, we need to try and sort of give ourselves that insurance to get us up to a base level. And I think the right supplements have their intervention and can be really beneficial. Of course, depending on source, depending on dosage and a few other things. But that I just wanted to clear up at the beginning because like a lot of people get that misconception.
Why do you need supplements?
Yeah.
No, Ryan says it best. Modern problems require modern solutions.
Okay, well that's a shorter way to put it.
Yeah.
So I could have just said that. Yeah.
Give me your favourites though that you've tried recently.
Recently, I mean, I try not to keep the list too long, but just a simple one. I mean, this is creatine is the first one that springs to mind because it's very, you can find it in red meat. You'd have to eat a lot of red meat, but it just for muscle performance, cognitive function, nervous system, like you name it, has a very high return of investment. And I want to make sure that with supplementation that what I'm taking is going to give me a high return of investment, right?
Yeah.
And so that would be the first one. Shilajit. I just partnered with Black Lotus, so that is one that has some really good studies, some great supporting literature for free testosterone, and free testosterone is a measure that we want to make sure that we're tracking. More importantly, so I take that pretty much every day on an empty stomach. I can put it in coffee, whatever. It's a simple one, especially when in the form that you've seen in the tablets. Just super.
Makes it really easy.
Super easy. The taste isn't the best.
Yeah.
I don't know if you tried the.
Oh wow!
It's not
a beautiful combination. When I was taking it, I talked about Sistange. I was taking it with Shilajit in the morning. Sistange.
You weren't even leaving the house, mate.
Like Sistange in your pants is apparently the phrase.
I've not heard that. But
you not heard that one. Yeah. But I was taking Shilajit and Sistange in the morning. The Shilajit on its own is with Sistange, it tasted like rum and coke.
Really?
Yeah. God, it was like starting the morning. It was like this was in December.
Rum and coke. I was dancing night.
Yeah, I was getting up at 6 a.m, getting ready for work. I felt like I was having a rum and coke in my kitchen. It was December, 2 weeks before Christmas.
Sounds like you were having a rum and coke.
The day is being set in motion.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that about Sistange. Like I've never tried it for long enough. I remember I had some when I was in Albania, but I left it behind and like I never really finished. It's not a cycle, but like you've got to give these supplements time. Like it's not just like what you take it one day and it's like I've just you get the idea. But going back to supplements. So
I have to say with Sistange for me, like it was in a day.
Really?
I know, one of the most potent supplements I've ever tried. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, Shilajit and Sistange together. So we're working in unison.
Well, I know what I'm going to be doing after this podcast. Straight on Amazon. Well, probably not Amazon, but find a reliable source, because that's the thing with supplements. It's like you could take, you have to make sure you're getting these from lab tested.
Yeah, third party tested.
Yeah.
No fillers.
Yeah.
None of the bullshit.
Have you tried British Sups? They're pretty good.
No, I haven't. I haven't heard of them.
Harmless plug. I mean, they're BritishSupplements.co.uk. That's where, if I'm in the UK, that's where I get it from. All third party tested. The purest form.
Awesome.
It's all lab tested. So back to it. So we've got creatine, taurine.
Yeah, love taurine.
Creatine, taurine.
What kind of dosage do you do with creatine and taurine?
Creatine 10 grams.
Yeah.
And really, it would be difficult for me to say honestly like what the difference between 5 and 10 is, but purely I base that upon from the literature that I've read. And
this idea that like 5 grams of creatine is like the maximum dose, like there's no benefits beyond that.
I always like to go the higher end.
Really.
Well, especially if you're trying to test things, I'm like, might as well.
100%. And especially with creatine, like there's also studies which show like if you do like 20 grams a day, especially like if you've had a concussion or something, the cognitive benefits.
I've seen that one. That's outstanding.
Yeah, so especially like for someone like me in combat sports.
Yeah. So are you taking it as well?
10 and 10, creatine and taurine in the morning. Yeah, 10 grams of each.
Interesting. Yeah, and there's also stuff on a sleep deprivation with creatine. So you had a really bad night's sleep. the creatine will really mitigate the negative effects from a bad night's sleep. So again, I think what that shows is the true power of this substance with ATP production, and how this is like incredible to think that from a bad night's sleep you can take this and it's shown to mitigate some of the effects of that. Just shows its nature, right?
Yeah.
So taurine, creatine, protein powders, definitely not. Used to do it back in the day, because a lot of people ask me about that. I thought I'd just mention that, because that seems to be a big question. Like, protein isolate, I think, can have its place, but it's really not necessary. You've got to think, it's this powder, you look at it like this synthetic form.
Yeah, that's it. Like, you want to get it from the real thing wherever possible. Like you say, with something like specific amino acids, like we're really leveraging them and taking these high doses to get certain effects. Like, you'd have to eat so much.
Like, look at eggs. Eggs is a
micronutrient.
The micronutrient breakdown of eggs.
Nature's multivitamin.
It's incredible.
Yeah, brilliant. What are your favourite sources of protein on a daily basis?
I mean, most of the predominant is meat and potatoes is a staple. Right? Beef mince.
I always say, like, this country was built on meat and potatoes. And a fag and a coffee.
And a fag and a coffee, for some. Maybe we're in the European summer somewhere in Italy or something. But yeah, meat and potatoes, I mean, a pretty solid steak, of course. Like, you can't go wrong with a sirloin or a third. Or you can, I mean, the more you spend on a good quality steak, the better it is, generally speaking. But you've got to get friendly with butchers.
I've really been enjoying my beef mince recently. But just cramming like 300 grams of it together, cooking it as a burger.
Yeah, but it's so easy as well, so efficient. How can you tell me you don't have time? Like, literally 3 minutes. I mean, I don't even cook my beef mince fully. I have it very rare.
Oh no, yeah.
So I mean, that way, you lose a lot of the when you're cooking it, you lose a lot of the nutritional value, especially if you're smoking it.
It digests so much better the less you cook it.
Do you have raw food? Any raw food?
Yeah. I have my raw liver, raw ox liver once a week. A
bit of salt on it, a bit of
I don't
raw dog it.
And people go, oh my god, that's crazy. I think that's the best way to have it from a nutritional standpoint, but taste wise as well. Cooked liver, I'm not a fan of. It doesn't taste
unless
right.
You're putting like onion and you're really making.
Yeah, you really make a good dish out of it.
Yeah.
But then, like, even I've put salt on it raw before, but really, like, liver's got like a sweet taste to it.
Depends.
So like putting salt on it, it's just kind of it's not hitting the right notes for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, raw liver. I mean, it's pretty nutrient. I mean, the most nutrient dense. What would you say? Oxtail? Did you say?
Ox liver.
Ox liver.
Yeah, cow liver. Drink raw eggs all the time just because quick, on the go. But again, they digest better than when I cook them.
Definitely. I mean, I think it's, for me, you see a lot of these people on social media, and there's people will, raw chicken, raw this. And of course, there's a fine line for me between, like, there's being an absolute specimen, like doing this raw primal diet. But then for me, there's a balance of enjoyment, right? I love food, I love cooking. And for me, I strike a balance between, I'm trying to I'll have some raw foods, the raw egg shake sometimes before bed. I used to do it post-workout, don't do that so much now. But I think if you want to really optimize your health, and you're trying to optimize is quite a broad subject, isn't it? Because everything has a trade-off. But that's another topic of conversation. But if you really want to get the best bang for your buck, is to incorporate some raw foods into your diet for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, raw,
sauerkraut and all these.
Your fermented foods, honey,
raw dairy.
Why are we heating honey? Yeah. Why are we heating milk?
Yeah.
Well,
we both know why, but
yeah. But yeah, I mean, raw honey is surely one that everyone can get behind, right? Yeah. I hope people aren't scared of having raw honey. Yeah. I can understand, because of what we've been told, why people are skeptical of raw milk and raw liver and stuff.
Yeah.
And all the bacteria, it's going to be no good for you. And if you get it from the wrong source, don't get me wrong, you get it from a cow with TB, you're going to have a bad time. But as long as it's
just on that note, there's a really good book. If someone's watching this and they're sort of in that entry level, kind of want to understand this a little bit more, kind of lots of raw dairy, lots of raw eggs, lots of meat and this abundance, lots of honey, lots of sugar. There's a really good book called How to Fix Your Metabolism by Kate Deering.
Did you post that on your story?
Yeah, it's great for your parents, great for people who are kind of like, to a lot of people, they're like, whoa, all this food, like this. We're trying to signal abundance, like going from this scarcity mindset of like, health should be this kind of like, a lot of people go to the extremes and do loads of cardio. They'll really diet down to the nth degree to try and get super lean. But actually, health is abundance. It's signaling abundance, and it's trying to get people to that point where it's not about constant punishment. Like how amazing is like things like raw honey, raw dairy. Like when I'm on more of I've been doing the whole fruit till noon thing and things like that. But when I'm eating more dairy, it's get diet down first, and then when you can like eat this dairy in abundance, your like training is through the roof.
Like
it's insane.
Day to day
You'll get steroid accusations. Like,
the cycle, the raw milk cycle. Yeah. Do you do any fasts?
I'll fast 3-4 times a year.
Cool.
When I really feel like I need it, so like intuitively. So it will be a 3-day fast, 1 to 3 days. Generally, I like to push to 72 hours because it's a bit more of a mental challenge. I'm not doing it for a body composition goal. It's more so discipline, spiritual practice, and a general clear out. You know, you have the autophagy.
What do you feel like you get from it? Yeah, on a mental and
the white blood,
standpoint.
like it. You know, biologically, it can be a really useful tool, but I'm never going to be the intimate faster. I've been there and done that, and never really felt my best since having breakfast, since being more abundant with foods. I've seen a lot better progress, and I enjoy having breakfast. I feel like I look healthier having breakfast. I did the intermittent fasting for years, you know, waiting to have food till like 12 p.m. Yes, I was in good shape, but I feel like I'm in better shape now. My energy's better. I have a better cognitive function. Like I just genuinely feel a lot better than I did when I was intermittent fasting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, agreed. I mean, especially like someone like me with my training volume, like I've done lower carb, higher fat before. I've like limited my eating window to 8 hours a day, and like I felt good. Don't get me wrong, it's not that I felt bad. But then when I started increasing the carbs, started eating late at night, I got finished training most nights at 9 in the evening. Yeah, actually having carbs
and you feel
post training then. Recovery's better.
Awesome.
Able to train more. Just
but it's that mentality shift, though, isn't it? You've gone from a bit more scarcity to now actually, I can eat breakfast. I'm abundant. I'm going to utilize this energy, especially when you've got your metabolism to a really, really good point.
That's it.
Yes, there's certain lifestyle. You know, sunlight is an obvious one now. The sun is shining in my eyes, but once you've got the metabolism to a really great point and a sort of bulletproof system, your body, the carbs, especially for myself, is like a sponge.
It is.
Thrive on the honey. And
I think a lot of people are familiar with the concept that like you go keto, you go carnivore, your body gets better at using fat as a fuel source. The opposite is true as well. If you're eating good quality, easy to digest carbs, your body's going to get better providing you've got a healthy metabolism.
Yeah.
Like if someone's in a bad place with their health, maybe slamming loads of sugar, loads of carbs isn't the best thing to do from the get-go.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head.
Yeah,
like you're not.
But once you're in a good place, like your body gets better at oxidizing glucose.
That's it.
Like,
you're not going to get the obese guy to slug down like a liter of orange juice.
Yeah.
For example. It wouldn't make any sense.
That's it. You got to go down sometimes before you come back up. But yeah. The same way you can train your body to better use fat, you can also train your body to better use carbs. Yeah, which I think is important for people.
There's definitely some metabolic flexibility there.
Yeah,
for sure. I think we're going beyond, and again, going back to when I was in this counting calories era, the whole debate, and this is a huge subject, of course, with energy balance and calories in, calories out. But I think what we're starting to understand now more than ever, it's way beyond just calories in, calories out, with metabolic flexibility and like some really good stuff on X as well. The raw honey diet, anabology. It's got some great stuff on this. Like eating way more, but actually getting leaner and feeling more like you've got more energy, which goes completely against all this calories in, calories out. Yeah. So it's that's another massive subject in itself. But I'm at a point now to just give context back along. I mean, I'll easily go through 1 kilogram of honey per week.
Yeah.
Per week.
Yeah.
right? So I'd say probably 1.5. Like this, that's a lot of honey.
Yeah, it's a hell of a lot of
Yeah,
money.
but it's weird. Like it doesn't seem like
your body's using it well.
I'm like, how does it? I do get it. Like it's a furnace, but it seems crazy how much of this, like in an abundance, like Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
still getting stronger and leaner. Like it's nuts.
Absolutely.
Because I built up to
Yeah, because I mean, like if you'd done that 5-10 years ago, if I'd done that 5 years ago when my metabolism wasn't in a healthy state that it is now, God, you're just going to put it all around here.
I know, it's
terrible.
incredible though, isn't it? And what a great place to get to with your health, where you can eat and live in abundance like this.
Yeah.
With all these amazing foods that people sort of demonize and are restricted by. And, oh, if I eat that, I'm going to no, when you get your metabolism up to a great place, life becomes more abundant. And that is one of my first focuses with getting people in shape and health, is focus on metabolism. Most, if not all, health issues will stem from an imbalance in metabolism. So you need to, of course, the metabolism, increase in testosterone is a massive one, as you talked about, and that's what you specialize in as well.
Yeah.
So
that's what we're focusing on more.
Yeah, so these two are huge, right?
Yeah.
Before we're getting, they're the fundamentals to get in order first before we do anything else. Because if your metabolism's not working, like nothing else works in synergy, everything's off. Same as your testosterone, when that's plummeted to the bottom, and you've got no drive, no ambition, then nothing else is going to work. No matter how hard you try, no matter how hard you train, just not going to work.
That's it. You need to give your body a reason to burn what you're putting in it. In the same manner, you need to give your body reason to produce testosterone. It's getting a lot of attention recently. Like, you need to be living in a way, you need to be carrying a mindset, you need to be in an environment that demands high testosterone.
That's a really good point as well, man.
Yeah, you need to be as a man. You need to be taking risks. You need to be exposing yourself to a bit of danger. You need to be putting yourself under stress. Now, obviously, like, it kind of goes against what we're told. It's not just what we're told, it's biological mechanism. There is an inverse relationship between cortisol and testosterone. Like, if you're chronically stressed, that's not going to benefit your testosterone. But if you've got good stress management principles in place, you're trained, the pillars are in place, your training, diet, sleep, all of that, you could have all those in place. But if you're living a very passive, very too comfortable lifestyle, sitting on the couch, your body's got no reason to produce it. It's a
primal instinct.
It's a costly process to produce steroid hormones. It's not going to do it unless you're going out there, you're training hard, you're going, you're taking the risk and going to talk to the pretty girl when it feels scary too. Like, you're doing things
or driving around like in a supercar. There's no wonder why you feel like you're driving at like 100 miles an hour, and it's going to obviously
putting yourself in uncomfortable situations.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of the time, just to reiterate what you were saying, you can have all these things right on paper, but if you're living in your mum's basement or whatever in the middle of nowhere, and you're not actually testing the waters, and you're not taking risks, and you're not living the high tea lifestyle, as you just mentioned, that's a really good point. Actually, you're not going to get anywhere.
Absolutely.
Well, not get anywhere. That was a bit morbid, but like you're.
Well, no, but in reality, it doesn't matter if everything's optimized and you're training your diet and
that's it.
Your sleep's good.
Yeah.
If you're not going out and living a life, what's it all for?
And that's like the basics, right?
What's it all
that's
for?
So easy to do those things. Not to everyone though.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? Once you're in that place, what's the point in having all this vitality and, like you said, just sitting around in your mum's
life
basement?
Force? Yeah. Are you into on that note of life force? You practicing anything? Because obviously you're playing combat sport. You're competing, and this is a profession of yours. Now, what's your thoughts on things like semen retention? I'm just curious, because there's such a mixed bag.
Like you said, it's a mixed bag. Look, for me, when I retain, I feel it's obviously discipline to do so. So I feel a certain amount of mental strength and mental clarity from that. Not that like my cognition's enhanced, like some people say theirs is. Some people really feel that. Not in that sense. I just feel it's another thing I'm keeping in check. It's another thing I'm saying no
discipline.
to, abstaining from. And it's that puritanical discipline, which is very useful when you're in a tough sport. You've got to have your ducks in a row. You're preparing for physical confrontation, full contact, combat sport. Like they're going to try and hurt you, you're going to try and hurt them. So it's any kind of extra bit of leverage you can get on the discipline side of things is really good. But some people, when they retain, they say like their libido goes, mine goes.
I've heard the same.
Yeah, it's like my body just goes, okay, like, you know, we don't need the loins anymore. We're going to shut them off. That's what I feel like my body's saying. Which, like I said, depending on the time and what I'm doing and what I'm looking for, can be very beneficial. But other times, it's the complete opposite of what I want. Even if you're not out there dating, like not having any libido, depending where you're at in life, as a man, can feel like a very disempowering thing.
Well, we all want to recreate on simple terms, right? Biologically. That's what we're here to do, really. So, in that sense, it's interesting to hear. No, I'm just curious because we touched on life force, and that's kind of like led that spark. Because I was thinking, if you're, in that professional field, then it's interesting to hear.
Yeah, well, it's like the old, the old school protocol was, boxers 12 weeks before a fight, and they shut it all off, complete sexual abstinence, retention. Well, they didn't call it retention back in the day. But complete abstinence. Is there something for it? Like there are studies that show, increases in testosterone after 2 weeks. But I'm not bothered about that little increase in testosterone if it's you know what I mean. If I actually feel like my testosterone
I hear what
down
you're saying.
when it comes to symptomatically how I'm feeling day to day. That's one thing I'm not about. For all of the protocols that we do to optimize our testosterone, you want to be doing things and living in a way. Again, it goes back to the mindset, lifestyle, and environment. A high testosterone lifestyle. You want to be doing things that make you feel like a man. And for a lot of people, I think retention can actually be, more of a disempowerment than, empowerment through discipline. But on the other side, if you've got somebody that's addicted to porn, get off of Pornhub and do not touch yourself down there for 30 days. I think that's probably the right protocol for them. And
I think that's a really good bit of advice, mate.
That's probably the same person that's, morbidly obese and actually needs to do a 3-day fast and just cut off the sugar maybe for a couple of months as well.
But don't you find, on that note as well, with those kind of people, this whole sugar, porn, smoking habits, all of these sort of, because there's that guilt, there's that low vibrational activity, for example, watching porn, that then makes you want to eat some shit food because you feel bad to comfort. You see this vicious cycle then of people, and you can see why people get in a rut. This, I think it's absolutely insanity that as teenagers at school, I'd watch porn.
I'm really lucky that I never got into it.
That is insane. That is insane. And I even know guys, this is really weird, right? This is actually really worrying to me. And this happened twice in the span of a week. I went back to my hometown. Hopefully he's not watching this. Well, if he is, then it's too late now anyway. And I said to him, "Oh, mate, how's it going? I haven't seen him since, I was in school or whatever." This is years ago. I'm talking 10 plus years. Well, more than that, 15 years, more than that, Anyway, I was chatting. I said, "Oh, how's it going?" He was like, "Oh, yeah, how are you? I see you got a girlfriend." I was like, "Oh, how are you? Like, have you got a missus? Like, what's going on with you?" He goes, "Oh, no, mate, I don't really, I don't need a missus. I've got the internet for that." And this is the same guy that I've seen walk to his job. Every time I come back home, when I used to visit a uni, I see him walk into his shift at the pub. And he's doing this, and that was his answer.
That's actually really sad. That's really sad.
I put another example of this. I put something about, I had this from a couple guys actually, and they thought this was quite funny. And there was part of me that kind of laughed, and I was like, this is a bit weird. I was like asking if people had a morning routine or whatever, and this guy goes, "Oh no, to be honest, mate, that seems a bit complex. He was like, I'll go onto my phone, go on Pornhub, and that's how I start my mornings." And he was being deadly serious. Like, I'm like, it's
worrying, man.
Like,
it's really,
people actually do that.
Yeah.
What? That is insane.
It's depressing thinking about it.
Anyway,
but it's really
yeah.
worrying. I imagine there's so many people out there
Mm.
who's, you know, that's their reality.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
That's nuts. I mean, yeah, in so many ways, it completely can destroy your overall just life existence, and it's one of the worst of the worst. It's really,
yeah, that's it. It seems to be like a really,
and it's a real problem,
really difficult addiction to get over. Like I said, I'm really fortunate that it was just it's never been my thing. Never was. Never got into it. So I've never had to abstain from it.
Yeah.
You know Dan Blazarian.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was on Chris Williamson's podcast last year, and he was talking about he's kind of like undergone a bit of a spiritual revolution, or like
that guy. Oh my.
Yeah, like you know what I mean? Like he's because obviously he was like the world's biggest hedonist, women, drugs, weed, all of it. He said like one of the most difficult addictions to tame was his sex addiction.
I bet.
Yeah, like for all the substances that are physically addictive,
more than anything else.
Yeah. It's interesting. What about training? Let's go into training a bit in terms of like your preferences, the nuts and bolts of it. Give me some of your favourite movements to do in the gym.
Yeah, so I put a lot of emphasis on, of course, the obvious compound movements when we're talking about strength. I can't speak hypo. I'll get it out in a minute. You're gonna have to edit that out. It's like, no, you could like slow-mo that.
It's all in.
Hypertrophy. I'll get it back in a minute. Oh God. So anyway, a lot of emphasis on that. The compound movements, and I only train 3 times a week. Very low volume.
We've been sitting out in the sun for hours.
I think we're gonna have to get some food on in a minute. Oh, it's so funny. And some
too much sugar, bro. You're going hyperglycemic. Get the too much sun exposure. Get the canola oil out. Lather up.
Oh dear. Anyway, back to where I was. 3-day week training. I don't put too much emphasis on volume or like junk volume. A lot of people, like I've done this push-pull leg stuff and been there and done it, and I just prioritise my rest, and that's where all the steroid accusations come from. Yeah. So very low volume, strength training only. Oh God, that's really like set me off now. Yeah.
I'm the same. Once something gets me, that's it. I'm just like giggling about it.
We'll get some water in a minute. No, I'll tell you what, that sun is actually really warm.
It's lovely, isn't it?
Going back to, oh God, he set me off. That really like got me. We'll get some water in a minute. But where was I? God, I've lost my train of thought.
3 sessions a week.
3 sessions a week. And it's really not that
push-pull leg space, or is it like 3 full bodies?
Full body. I really don't put much emphasis on like junk volume. Like I said, it's a little bit like bodybuilder, kind of like bro. Like I strength train predominantly because I find it very like for longevity and recovery, and like to just build muscle over time.
For frankly, muscle growth. You train for strength. You're going to slap on a lot of muscle.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's my main focus. I do sprints on my off days.
I was going to ask about the sprints.
Yeah, or either I do it at the end of the session or I'll do it on an off day. But I mean, for testosterone, you both and I know that. It's
growth
super
hormone
important
as well.
So I do that a couple of times a week, lots of daily steps, things like that.
Are they physical sprints? Or like as in like running sprints? Or
We've
like
got
sprints on a bike?
That hill that we walked up earlier, I'll run up there.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, once, twice a week. As a general rule, twice a week, but sometimes just once a week, depending on what I've got on and what I've prioritised.
Yeah.
But I streamline training. Like it doesn't take away from my life. It's just at this point, of course, it's become a ritual. It's what I live and breathe, and I love. Don't get me wrong, I love the feeling of the pump. I love like getting a great pump, feeling strong, jacked, and it's the bigger picture and longevity and having that muscle, because as you know, 30 years old, at 30 you start to lose muscle every year, so you can set yourself up for life with strength training. I think it's one of the easiest ways to like get control of your life, and having a solid frame and building muscle tissue is, you know, it improves every metric of your health.
Yeah.
So specifically in regards to training, 3 full bodies a week, focusing on compounds, and then the isolation comes towards the latter part of the workout.
Nice.
for more of the pump stuff. But in all honesty, I do body weight training as well. Like you see the bars outside. I practice that once in a while, like things like muscle ups. I can become an athlete. Like I train, the sprints are very, athletic. So rather than just being a bodybuilder, very rigid, I try and
You're not just
give that
training for
athletic
aesthetics.
element as well.
Yeah.
So I can sort of do anything. If anything happens, I can run away from the vegans.
What do you like to? Are there certain things you like to do, like in between sessions, to, like prime you for the next? Like I know you're big on like walking outside. Like no wonder, because it's absolutely beautiful here.
Yeah.
Mobility. Do you tend to do much stretching at all?
Yeah, a bit of mobility flow before a workout. I could always do more. I think you see some great guys out there promoting mobility. It's very just simple before a workout. Maybe I could do more in my extra time, but I've really, in total honesty, I've had no issues with like injuries, or I've never had one injury since I started my lifting career, because I lift properly. I don't lift too heavy. I make the lightest weight feel as heavy as possible. There's a lot you can be doing, and I don't think. By the way, I sound a little bit lazy by saying, I'm not trying to say that mobility doesn't have its.
Oh no.
I know that it's.
Well, you're as mobile as you need to be for your
But
demands.
I do a basic flow, and I guess you could always do more. But whatever I'm doing is working well for me now, and I'm open to learning more about mobility, and maybe I could be doing more.
Well, if you're injury free, you feel good. So you got no
exactly.
day to day.
And I think there's a lot to say for generally being very active and daily high step count just by moving your body in that. I know, of course, that's not really rotational and it's very sort of forward motion, but in that sense, I think just by being very active and living a lifestyle where I'm on the move a lot has a lot to say for not being injured and being very agile. And of course, a lot of my training, I'll get posterior chain movement from like certain deadlifts or whatever in the gym. I do a lot of hyperextensions and things like that. So yeah, I think that answers the question.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's finish off with some heavy hitters.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah. Life after death.
Wow.
Well, what does that look like?
That was really what you weren't lying when you said that, were
No,
you?
no.
Jeez. Life after death. That's
Do you think there is like life as we kind of know it after death, or do you think it's we go off into the ether, dissipate, we go back to being purely just energy rather than a bundle of it together?
Well, I guess you got to think like where were we before now? Another one that you can't comprehend, right? It's the same kind of. That's the best way I could try and get a taste of what that might be like, because we don't have the answers, obviously, and we don't know where we were before this right now. So I don't fear death. I really don't fear death. Actually, when the time will come, it will come. I've had a near-death experience where I actually really felt that was it, and I had a bit of a strange. Felt something pulled me out of that situation, and that's me trying to, like, when I'm explaining this out loud, I'm trying to like go back to that situation in my head to try and give you an answer.
Do you mind talking about
that? Gave me a bit of a certainly an eye-opening experience for sure.
Yeah.
That was in Bali with my girlfriend, and we were going to go meet some mates from Uluwatu in Bali, and go meet them in Canggu for a dinner party we got invited to. And rather than get on the moped, we took the ferry, because the moped, I don't know have you been to Bali?
I haven't been to Bali, no.
The traffic from Uluwatu into Canggu is insane. It would take like 3 or 4 hours, and we're in a bit of a rush. So we thought, easy answer, we'll go and get the ferry because we'll miss the traffic. It was a full moon as well to paint the picture. So full moon was out. We got on the boat, and the life jackets weren't working. Nothing was working. A third world country, right? What do you expect? These things happen. And it was a little choppy. Like, it was choppy enough to be like, that looks a little bit sketchy. Anyway, life jacket, we're going out to sea. It was me and I think we had about 8 people on the boat. a couple of German girls we were chatting to, and ironically, well, not ironically, stupidly, kind of making jokes, saying, "Oh, this isn't." Don't think this is very safe. Like this looks like it could, this isn't. We're making jokes about this kind of stuff, and we went out to sea, and it actually settled down. It was like completely normal. It was weird. It's like and I actually think to this day there's definitely something to say for it being a full moon. When I look back at it, things had like settled weirdly. Like it's gone from being quite choppy to then like the sunset, and there's like this beautiful orange sunset. We're going along, everything feels pretty good, like we're just going along, and we were still really quite far out at sea at this point when the sunset was going down. It was as far as, you look into the distance there, and you're on a family holiday, you look back and you can see people at the shoreline, but these were still dots. These weren't, you couldn't make out people, you couldn't make out what they were wearing. It was just, you could see the outline. And the weather started turning a bit again. It started like raining a little bit. Quite a lot of wind started coming in. It was like this really strange, like the weather, it just didn't make sense. It was like beautiful, then it kind of like turned quite quickly. Anyway, I was sort of going along. It gets a little bit bumpy. We're all having a good time though, but like just chatting, we're in Bali, the sunset's going. And then I've looked over to my right, and I could notice every now and then the boat was kind of like going down at a bit of an angle, and what I noticed then was like this swell, and I don't know what you kind of call these type of waves. I'm not really clued up. I'm not a surfer, believe it or not. But I looked over to my right, and I would say at least from double as far as past that house there, the second house, but a bit further. I don't know, like just a general figure, and I could see these like pretty big waves, but it was weird because they weren't near us. I was like, oh, it's fine. Like it was in the distance. I was like, it's going to be fine. I'm looking over and everything's good. And then, it's crazy to say out loud. And then, like, kind of out of nowhere, this wave that we saw in the distance, I could then see this was coming closer and closer. Like by within a minute of me seeing those waves, it started wrapping around. So these waves started getting bigger and bigger. Before I knew it, one of these waves had come round. I mean, I'm talking like 10 foot, like big waves, not just, you couldn't just surf them.
Yeah.
Before you know it, the boat has gone up like this. We're now riding one of these waves. The boat is now gone from being quite stationary to this kind of angle, right? So we're on the decline of this, and it can't keep up. The boat has just gone like this. We're now surfing on one of these waves on a boat as if we're on a surfboard, right? And then what he did, this wave was getting so big. The guy was a newbie. We found out he wasn't trained. He was quite new to this boat company, whatever. And instead of going with it, basically he turned stupidly. I think he turned the engine off. And as he did that, as you can imagine at this angle, the boat's just flipped. Right. So obviously, when I think about it, it's quite crazy. The initial response is in that split second, as that boat's turned, it's you're like thrown into this, like your adrenaline. Like I couldn't believe when I think about that thought process, I couldn't believe that was happening. Like the boat, I was like, no way is the boat about to flip. I was like, no. I'm looking at Leah, my girlfriend, who's next to me, and the whole boat has just gone. It's just flipped underwater. The scariest part was that moment, but there's so many parts to this where it was pure scarcity, like adrenaline. Then there was the moment of, wait, hang on, it's flipped, but I haven't hurt myself. I haven't caught myself. There's been no impact from the flip. I've somehow got out of the window and got under in like this sheer panic. I don't know. I can't even explain this to you. Like I'm trying to articulate it, but something guided me to jumping out this window.
So you were inside?
I got out.
You weren't just like on a boat. You were inside.
Yeah. Well, I was on a boat, but like there was like this exit. There was like this way out that I could get out of as it was sort of going down, as it flipped. So I jumped through, And then I was like, holy shit. I remember being under the water. I'd got out under the sea. So I'm like, whoa, despite that boat going like that, I'm still here. I'm still under the water. Whatever I do now, I'm underwater. I'm good. I can get up. So I've got up. Obviously, the boat it's snapped. Like the whole boat is snapped in half, basically, with the impact of the waves and whatever. I was like, this is not amazing. That's the wrong word. I was like, wow, this is insane, because now basically what I'm trying to get at is, as the boat was going, I thought, okay, I'm cooked from just the impact of the boat, or like some sort with the flipping of the boat.
You were going
anyway,
with it.
Got a second chance. I was like, well, okay, cool. I've gone underwater. I've got back up, and then I realised the situation that we're in. We're fucking far from the shoreline. They're still very far at this point. No one's going to see that, I'm thinking. No one's seen that. I've got up. Don't know where Leah is. Don't know where the other guys are gone. I'm on my own. I'm fighting the waves. I'm fighting the ongoing, like, it wasn't just one wave. It was another. Put my head underwater, 3 seconds. More waves come down. Another 3 seconds. Hold my breath. Come up, go back. Come up. It was a series. You know, they come in breaks, obviously. The worst part is, and I'll never forget this, I didn't know if my girlfriend was alive. I didn't know if anyone else was alive. I was there on my own, and they were also, you know, later in the conversation, we all were in the same predicament. We've got blown up. We were all in different parts of the sea at the time, obviously, with the waves. And I went through this flux of, there's the boat. I jump onto the boat, wave, try and get to the shore, try and get some attention. Then another wave will come, have to jump off the boat, because if the boat hits me whilst I've got the wave. So it was a matter of quick decisions. And I was thinking, I got on top of it again, had a bit of respite from the waves, and I could see some of the other guys scattered around. But the worst part is I didn't know where Leah was. I literally, for all I know, she could have drowned. She's not a strong swimmer. We're far out at sea. We're not just like an easy walking, like we can't just get to the shoreline. So all this was going on. I've got thought patterns. I'm huddling on the boat thinking, oh my God, am I really going through this? I couldn't believe the moment, because I'm in so much shock.
You couldn't believe it.
I couldn't believe, I thought, wow, Leah might have gone. I don't know what, you know, it's the worst feeling in the world. I literally had no idea. Anyway, this is a bit further on down the story. By the way, I hope I'm not, this is like...
No.
So anyway, this was all going on. And finally, after carrying on, some surfers managed to come out. About 6 guys, all Balinese. Somehow, I don't know how they got out there. The waves were like insane. They must have, like, it took a lot to get out there. But what we later on realised is a psychologist who we met up later in the next few days after this incident had spotted us with binoculars for some reason. I don't know how she had, or why, and how we got that lucky, but she had seen the boat go over on the wave, and she sent the surfers out. Wow. So if it wasn't for that, I don't know. I'm a pretty strong swimmer. I like to think I would have probably got my way out of it, but I couldn't tell you for a fact. I wasn't sure about that. I don't know if Leah was, I was a shell of a man afterwards when we got back on the shore. But whilst it springs to my head, one of the best feelings I ever experienced was that happening and putting my feet on the shore and getting back with the surfers. I skipped out a bit with the surfers because that wasn't an easy thing getting back either.
But they the swam feeling out with their boards
and then managed to get out there for us and rescued us. And the feeling of putting my feet down on the ground, on the sand, and it wasn't just that, it was turning around and seeing Leah come out of the sea was like one of the best feelings of my life. It was just like, I couldn't believe that after thinking all those things, and then she was still alive, and we were there touching the sand and getting another chance. All my suitcase, all my possessions, my bank card, my phone, everything was at the bottom of the sea because it was on the boat. But even though I had nothing, I had lost all my stuff, I got on that shoreline, and to see her there, of course, she was in a lot of stress, and she actually had no clothes. Her clothes were ripped off, so she was naked on the beach with nothing. And obviously, when I say I was shaking, I was like this, like a leaf. To see her come back and to be on that shore was one of the best feelings. When the reality had sunk in, when we realised we had got out of this really messy situation, it was one of the best feelings of my life. Like, it was amazing. It gave me this another, like, wow, like, you're okay, mate. It's going to be all right. You've got another chance.
Yeah.